of that record, and but he is not going to take he's going to take safety seriously, I should say. They've boarded up the window. They're thinking about boarding up the windows just in case, just making sure they protect what they own. But he says as soon as they can, they'll be right back open again, and making sure that they're here to serve their customers as long as they're able to. So that's what we got going on here in Apopka. For now, live in Apopka, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Nick, thanks so much. Well, mandatory evacuations are being ordered in certain areas from Tampa all the way to Daytona Beach.
And FEMA Administrator Deanna Criswell says if you're in an evacuation zone, you need to get out.
People should not focus just on the cone. They need to focus on the storm surge that is going to cover a wider area, and they need to get to safety. And this doesn't mean you have to go far. You just need to get to higher ground outside of that surge threat until the storm passes.
Volusia County has ordered mandatory evacuations beginning on Wednesday at 8 a.m. These include areas east of Intercoastal, those in the manufactured or mobile homes, if you live in one of those, anyone in a low-lying flood-prone area, and anyone at campsites or RV parks. In Marion County, evacuation orders are in place for people living in mobile homes, RVs, and modular-type housing.
Lots of folks still on the roads right now, and you can see just a massive stream of headlights heading your way. This is I-75 northbound, and by all accounts, it takes at least double, 2.5 times or longer in normal commute time for someone to take it from, say, Pinellas County all the way up. We talked with somebody who was caught in this for 6.5, almost 7 hours on a trip that would take about half that typically.
She said she saw people walking their dogs on I-4 because it was slow. Yeah. So slow going.
Yeah, and this is just, you know, heeding the warning. And I'm certain, Tom, as Tom Terry joins us again, that the people that were there in Pinellas and Sarasota and those areas that saw what Helene did, they're like, oh, I don't want any more of that.
Yeah, it's time to go. And people say we've been through all these storms. You have not been through a storm like this. This is
and they're all different.
They are all different. And we're kind of combining some of the worst storms that we've been through here in
dogs on going.
Yeah, and this is just, you know, heeding the warning. And I'm certain, Tom, as Tom Terry joins us again, that the people that were there in Pinellas and Sarasota and those areas that saw what Helene did, they're like, oh, I don't want any more of that.
Yeah, it's time to go. And people say we've been through all these storms. You have not been through a storm like this. This is
and they're all different.
They are all different. And we're kind of combining some of the worst storms that we've been through here in
dogs on going.
Yeah, and this is just, you know, heeding the warning. And I'm certain, Tom, as Tom Terry joins us again, that the people that were there in Pinellas and Sarasota and those areas that saw what Helene did, they're like, oh, I don't want any more of that.
Yeah, it's time to go. And people say we've been through all these storms. You have not been through a storm like this. This is
and they're all different.
They are all different. And we're kind of combining some of the worst storms that we've been through here in
dogs on
I want to say the beauty is wrong word. Advantage we have now is that we still have time for your preparations, getting where you go. We've got a good solid day and a half here. By Wednesday late day, we're going to have some issues with rain and storms. And then Thursday will be the day to really stay hunkered and be ready because it's going to come through in a fury. Right now, you can see the storm roughly 600 or so miles on the southwest side of Pinellas County, and that's where it's going to end up here. It's going to do this long, circuitous route. Notice the clouds racing by up here. Those strong winds are going to come to benefit us a little bit in weakening this system a little bit, but it's still going to be a huge storm. And I want you to notice this convective kind of an appendage out ahead of this. These are going to be some strong feeder bands that may survive its trip through. So those are going to be some of the outer rain bands we're going to be watching before the center gets here on Wednesday afternoon. We could deal with those before the storm comes through Thursday morning. This is the track. We'll get a new one as of 11. Really, I don't think the track is going to shift that much. We've been fine-tuning the timing on this as best we can, but you can see it weakening down to 125 mile an hour Category 3 hurricane at landfall. In our early warning future track model, which has done such a great job, it did a great job with Ian 2 years ago as a hurricane landfall. It actually caught that turn again early as it made its landfall approach. This is Wednesday, and you remember that little appendage I was showing you with the cloud bank? Look at that. That's what our model depicts here, and that is going to be some very strong outer rain bands hitting the coast. We'll also have a tornado threat with this as well, and they will just kind of be feeding on through. So that's why we're telling you by late Wednesday afternoon, we kind of need you where you're going to be, because we're going to be writing this stuff out. You can see the eye right over here cranking along. Also notice a little bit drier on the south side, and this is going to help, I think, alleviate some of the flood threat, but not all of the flood threat, because you can see Thursday morning, before we get the dry air intrusion in here and weakening the rain bands, still heavy rainfall. There's that storm just cranking. In fact, our model brings it right up in through Tampa Bay. So again, incredible storm surge through here. Really strong winds, probably well over 115, 120 miles an hour on the north side there as it approaches north of Tampa. And we're going to bring, if that's the center or anywhere close to this point, very heavy wind and rain wrapping around, perhaps a little bit less rain here, but certainly a lot of wind, and very heavy wind and rain. Claremont, Orlando, Apopka, up by Rock Springs Bar and Grill. It's really going to hammer through this whole area all the way up and toward New Smyrna. And this will be something too. There's the storm, there's the onshore wind. Because of that, because of this and the storm surge of 3 to 5 feet, that's why we're expecting to see evacuations continue starting Wednesday morning from Volusia and Flagler counties. We're really going to watch this whole area, guys, as that storm is going to be approaching and continuing to hammer on through. We'll have much more. We'll take you county by county. Meteorologist David Heckert and I updating these maps as we get the latest information. I
keep looking for the silver lining in this dark cloud that's coming our way, Tom, and I think the silver lining of any hurricane is that at least we have time to prepare. There are so many other weather phenomena and other natural disasters that there is no warning. We do have warning, we do have time, and the time is now to make certain that we brace and prepare for what will be a significant impact for Florida.
All right, we're going to continue to track Milton. Stay with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
Get your home ready for the new season with Stanley Steamer. We know there is nothing like the feeling of a professional deep cleaning. Your home isn't clean until it's Stanley Steamer Clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
As Milton brings threats of power outages, stay informed with our free Channel 9 news and weather apps. Stream Channel 9 Eyewitness News on your phone for the latest updates on flooding, power outages, and road closures. Download the free Channel 9 weather and news apps right now.
The hour, we will always get you updated with the latest tracks. So as you make your preparations, you will also be able to see Tom Terry and his team forecast for you. We'll do that in just a moment. Good evening. I'm Greg Wormuth.
And good evening to you. I'm Martha Sagowski. We want to take you out live to Sabrina Maggiore, where getting gas has always been a challenge when storms of this magnitude are approaching. And she's been out live in Kissimmee for the past couple of hours on Osceola Parkway. And Sabrina, it's been nonstop there.
Martha, it's been consistently busy, and what I want to show you, what we're seeing a lot of right now is this. If you take a look at that woman over there, she's filling up those red gas tanks. So people are stopping by. Not only are they getting gas for their car, but they're also getting gas for their generators as they prepare for this storm. Now, this particular gas station has been pretty busy for the last few hours. There's actually a little bit of a lull right now, but just a few minutes ago it was packed and every pump was occupied. Now, I want to show you, though, contrast, right? We see a relatively busy gas station here. If you follow me across the street, across Michigan, you're going to look at this gas station here. And if you zoom in on the pumps in the distance, you'll notice that they're covered, that this gas station has run out of gas. And that is something that we have started to see in Osceola County. It was something I noticed this morning in Orange County as well when I tried to get gas before heading in to work. So we've seen just a pretty steady supply of people coming in and getting all the supplies they need, getting the gas they need. This is also a gas station off the turnpike, so we also spoke to lots of folks who were just getting off the turnpike in a lot of traffic and needed to gas up again. So again, pretty busy here is what we've seen. There's still time, though, to go ahead and get all the gas you need, to get whatever other supplies you may need ahead of this storm. If you have a moment to do so, you can. You just may have to look around for a little bit because some stations are having a little bit of an issue as there's been such heightened demand. For now, reporting in Kissimmee, I'm Sabrina Maggiore. Back to you, Martha and Greg.
Sabrina, thank you so much. I have to remind myself on the way home tonight, I got to fill up the tank. All right, Duke Energy is getting ready for Hurricane Milton, setting about 10,000 responders to handle any possible outages.
And there's going to be a lot of them. With Milton already a Cat 5 storm, over 1 million people could lose power. That is the estimate. Duke says strong winds and flooding also could cause significant damage to homes, and that can make power restoration a challenge. The company says crews from out of state will be staged and ready to work as soon as conditions are safe. And Central Florida homeless shelters are preparing to open tomorrow and Wednesday.
It's to allow people who are unsheltered to safely be indoors as Hurricane Milton heads to our area. Osceola County is set to open 7 emergency weather shelters starting Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Orange and Seminole counties are expected to announce shelter openings at some point today or early tomorrow. For now, free bus service is available along Lynx's regular bus routes. There will be additional transport services provided if needed. The buses will operate until winds reach 35 miles per hour. Again, you got to be safe on the roadway. Those high winds do not make things safe.
Big day tomorrow in terms of where those shelters are. The reason they have not announced those, at least one of the examples and one of the definitions was we don't want people to go there early because we're going to try to have school at least part of the day on Tuesday. So people will have plenty of time to get there, and they'll make those announcements, and we'll pass that along. And being in a shelter is not a bad idea if you're concerned. Maybe this is your first storm and you're worried about the location of your home with large trees that are around it and the possibility of flooding. Tom Terry is back in Severe Weather Center 9. Tom, we've all covered a lot of storms, but none of us can say we've covered anything like this.
Yeah, this is an incredible storm. We keep using those adjectives on it, and this is going to bring incredible impacts to us. And just some of the headlines, if you're just catching up with us just after 9:34 here, we have a Category 5 right now, winds 180, may peak around 185. I think it's already peaked in intensity for the moment, based on what I see in the aircraft recon that's in the vicinity now. It will weaken somewhat due to wind shear and some dry air as it approaches the coast, but still have an enormous sized wind field. The wind field is going to grow 3 or 4-fold over the next couple of days as it moves over warm water and continues to redevelop. Landfall Thursday, hurricane conditions for all of us, okay? And just got this in. We had a 4-mile wide eye. If you take the diameter of the eye of the hurricane, it was 4 miles, incredibly small. Smaller than I remember Wilma back in 2005, and that was setting records. So very small. And then it formed an outer eye wall. So now it has two. It has an inner eye wall of 6 miles, outer eye wall of 35 miles. And the outer eye wall will take over. So the inner one will disappear. And now we're going to have a hurricane that is 35 miles with a wide eye, and it will contract. So this is part of the development process of it. So it's already very strong. Then it will grow larger, okay? So it will weaken as it approaches Florida, but this will have a very large wind field. It should weaken back to probably mid-range Category 3 with winds of around 125 miles an hour or so. And the forecast models, the couple's still trying to work it down south. The UK Met, but generally the consensus is white line right here. The TVCN, that's generally when you average all the models together, that's about their best guess. So I don't think the track is going to shift a whole lot when we see the 11 o'clock advisory. The track still brings it up right in toward Tampa Bay or very close by. The good news for us, we have time to watch it. You're going to get sick and tired of me talking, but we've got some time here for our preparations. So tomorrow still looks pretty good. Wednesday, first part of the day looks okay. By 1 o'clock, though, these outer feeder bands are going to come through. We'll have a higher tornado risk, and this will spread inland throughout the afternoon and into the early evening. So I think probably by noon, 3, 4 o'clock at the latest on Wednesday, you need to be inside, hunkered down, because we are going to start seeing more of these rapid fire rain bands coming through. Here's the hurricane itself, weakening now probably to a Cat 3. This is midnight. We're going to start losing power. It's going to happen. We're going to have all kinds of heavy rain, especially on the north side of the track. There's going to be dry air to the south, heavy rain to the north, and we're going to get flooding. It's going to happen, we think, with this storm. You can see it working through Claremont, Orlando. This is 7:30 in the morning. So waking up to howling winds, hurricane force across the area, 75, 85 miles an hour are expected here. It will move offshore by Thursday afternoon. We'll rapidly see the wind shift direction out of the north, coming in out of the northeast. That's really going to push a bunch of sea water up into the coast. We do have storm surge advisories out for our beaches here along our east coast, not as high as the surge on the west coast, which will be catastrophic, but we're certainly going to get some impacts here too. And just one run of my future track model based on what you just saw, how much rain, and it stops Thursday at 2 p.m. and we'll probably still have rain for a few more hours along the beaches. 15, 14, 13, 8, 10, lesser amounts to the south, but this is going to cause big problems with some flooding as well. But we've learned a lot in the last couple of years. We've been working diligently. I know local crews have, municipalities, and trying to mitigate this flood threat, getting the water more avenues to move out of the way. And of course, power outage. Ellis County, west of Tampa, or evacuation orders. Fall late Wednesday, Thursday. Behind this, thankfully it is October, so we will have some pretty darn nice weather. Lows in the 60s, low humidity, and we will need that because it's going to be, I think, a lot of us without conditioners perhaps for a little while. Guys, much more coming up.
All right, don't get wrapped up as well. And Tom, you've talked about this, whether it's Cat 5 or when it makes landfall at a Cat 3, because the sheer size of the storm is what really is just overwhelming even forecasters at this point. So we're going to continue to track this and get us all through it. We're now hearing as well from the mayor of Treasure Island, Florida, about bracing for another storm so soon, just 11 days after Hurricane Helene.
We still have significant amount of debris cleanup to do across the barrier islands to make sure that that doesn't become projectiles in this coming hurricane. So the governor has done a great job to send in extra reinforcements so that we can try to get that done, but it's a lot.
Here's a look at Treasure Island following Helene. Pinellas County issuing a mandatory evacuation order for Milton. That order includes all of Treasure Island. The city's mayor spoke about the fatigue that comes with these back-to-back storms.
It's been a whirlwind and a roller coaster. Our staff is exhausted. We have about 6,000 residents in Treasure Island and a staff of about 150 people. So we are better prepared now because we've just gone through it. We know what needs to be done, but we're running on fumes here. And
the mayor remains confident that workers will carry the city through the storm. And again, to bring up the fatigue of what they just went through, but they've seen the destruction, they've seen the damage. Yes, they're tired, but folks know they got to get out of town on that West Coast.
Yeah, and we've seen it with our roads. There's a thing called hurricane brain, and a lot of us that have been through these, there's been like 3 or 4 major storms in this last 13 months. And so it is happening, but there are ways around it. We'll talk more about that with mental health experts as we get closer to Hurricane Milton. We'll be right back as we continue our coverage. Again, tomorrow is that big day of preparation as we await Wednesday, Thursday, and then the cleanup Friday and beyond.
Central Florida.
Entire state, including South Florida, will feel these storms' impacts. You're looking at Key West, Florida right now. That lightning flash, you catch that? Well, that's actually the precursor to Milton. We've had this disturbed area. In fact, National Hurricane Center tagging it now over the Bahamas for maybe, just maybe, taking on some tropical characteristics. But in the meantime, it's just been a wet go of things with this particular setup across South Florida. We have a look at Miami, Florida right now, and you can see breaks in those clouds pushing in across the way. 77 degrees out there, winds out of the west, rather light. We've seen about 1.25 inches of rain just so far at this gauge throughout the day today. So the thing is that with Milton on the way, this rain ahead of the storm is going to just make things much more saturated, waterlogged, and that flooding is going to be of higher concern. With this particular storm, so we obviously say don't focus in on the cone, but it's within that area that we're going to see the most intense of these winds. With those tropical storm force winds, anywhere from 40 to 60 miles per hour, they're going to extend well outside of the cone, including down in the Miami-Dade area, up into Fort Lauderdale, over to Naples, Jupiter. This is the cut where we could see even up to hurricane forced winds, which is why those watches and those warnings are in place. We get over to the Southwest Florida because, when we look at Southeast Florida getting into Miami, it is wind, it is rain, it is power outages, but truly of what this storm is going to bring, it is probably the most manageable. You get over to Southwest Florida, and this is when surge starts to play a bigger role. Up to 10 feet of surge in an area that is already incredibly vulnerable. And just 2 years ago, a lot of these same areas haven't even built back to where they need to be resiliency-wise. Fort Myers Beach completely evacuated, and with this surge, I truly hope that everyone is heeding those warnings. Floridians preparing for the worst as Hurricane Milton is forecast to be a deadly major hurricane, surpassing the strength of Helene just over a week ago. Captain Jeremy Mockabee is with the Salvation Army, which has continued to provide aid in the wake of Helene, but now must prepare for Milton. Captain, this is just a short turnaround. How's your team getting ready for this?
Jane, we are ready to
About
respond.
quarter till 10, we're expecting a new hurricane track to come our way in the next 90 minutes or less, probably more like 75 minutes. We'll bring that to you. Plus, we're going to check in with Tom Terry on the latest track of what is a massive storm, Hurricane Milton, Cat 5. If there were such a thing as a Cat 6, it would be certainly in that category on a collision course with Florida. And Martha, one of the interesting things, it's the perpendicular angle as opposed to parallel with Florida and then working its way in. This is on a direct line straight into Tampa right now and cutting across the state through Orlando and off to our coastline and still battering our coastline of Brevard, Volusia, and Flagler counties.
That's right. And, you know, the Hurricane Center issued watches across portions of Florida, warned that parts of the state could be just overwhelmed, Greg, by life-threatening storm surge, flooding rain, and damaging winds. I mean, we got the whole combo going with this particular storm. And then it's incredible how quickly it just flared up.
All of us will have some impact. Kind of depends on where you live, whether that's flooding, trees down, power outages. Even some of that impact might be just inconveniences. Our roads closed, traffic lights, you know, we're all going to feel this.
All right. Well, with Hurricane Milton on the horizon, now is the time to fuel up.
Yeah, and let's check in again with Ashlyn Webb. She is in Seminole County, where many people are filling up their cars and even their gas tanks for their generators before the storm hits.
We've driven up and down Red Bug Lake between Castleberry and here in Oviedo, and this is the scene at several gas stations. Cars wrapped around the building. Just check out what we're seeing at the Wawa in Oviedo. Oviedo police are actually directing traffic. Dozens of cars, as you can see, are in line from at least 2 different directions. There's this one lane that's going around the gas station, another that goes all the way back into this strip mall parking lot. Now, this is one of the places that actually had gas. Other gas stations we've swung by, they just don't have lines because they simply don't have gas. Just being around town today, you can really feel the stress, the frustration from folks around here trying to prepare, getting fuel for their vehicles and generators. Now, also, some of the grocery stores in the area are also swamped, people stocking up on water and food. I just swung into the Publix not far from here in Winter Springs. They're planning to close early tomorrow, sometime around 6 p.m. before the storm is expected to move through Wednesday. County officials are telling folks to just have patience and prepare the best they can. Chairman Jay Zimbauer says Seminole County is seeing historically high groundwater. The ground is already very saturated after Helene and other recent heavy rainfall. And with that, there is a higher risk for trees falling and down power lines, more time that you might be stuck at home. Seminole County Fire Chief Matt Kinley says their teams are prepared. However, he wants to stress that people need to prepare to hunker down.
It's also important for the residents to know we do expect a lot of wind. When wind exceeds 70 miles an hour, our roadway operations will cease. We will halt those operations until those extreme winds die down to under 70 miles an hour. We will get to you, but again, if you are told to leave, you should heed those warnings.
Speaking of preparing, they're also encouraging people to sandbag their homes. Already, the county has distributed more than 40,000 sandbags over the weekend, thousands more today. Many of these sandbag locations will stay open until noon tomorrow. Those locations are listed on our website, WFTV.com. We'll continue to monitor the conditions out here, but for now, reporting in Seminole County, Ashlyn Webb, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Ashlyn, in Seminole County, again, it's more inland, but the impacts we've seen in other storms, I remember the flooding, the high water rescues, power being out because there's so many trees in beautiful Seminole County, and I think it was during Irma, 12 days of no power. So we're not talking usually 1 or 2 days for some of these areas. It's just hard to get the power back on.
A lot of people scrambling to get generators before Milton. Yep. Well, officials say they have urged millions of people on Florida's west coast to leave their homes as Hurricane Milton is moving closer to Florida.
Yeah, it would be the largest evacuation in at least 7 years. About 7 million people left their homes back in 2017 as Irma, that I just mentioned, bore down on all of us, and that led to jammed freeways, long lines at gas stations, evacuees never wanting to evacuate again after going through this, but they have to. And state officials say they learned lessons that year, and they've made some improvements to how we evacuate.
I urge Floridians to finalize your storm preparations now, enact your plan. I highly encourage you to evacuate. We are preparing, and I have the state emergency response team preparing for the largest evacuation that we have seen, most likely since 2017 Hurricane Irma.
And you're being urged, if you're in those areas, not to evacuate up. In other words, to say, well, I have an upstairs. No, you need to go out. So if you have people you think are stubborn and are staying, you need to let them know they have some time to get to higher ground, but not a lot of time. State officials staging emergency fuel for gas vehicles along the evacuation routes in case you run out of gas, along with charging stations for the electric vehicles.
The Ocala Police Department is warning drivers to avoid getting onto I-75. They say you can expect longer travel times and busy fuel stations near I-75 exits. FHP and FDOT open the northbound left shoulder on I-75 from I-4 to I-10 for extra travel capacity. Use alternative routes if possible. They say the rules to use emergency lanes are these. All cars can use them, but not large trucks or buses or trailers. Drive slowly and keep the right shoulder clear for emergency vehicles. And this is a live look at I-75 where traffic is moving. We had seen it earlier today, Greg, where it had been a crawl, but at this hour, it seems folks are getting where they need to go, not racing, but slowly and steady wins the race.
Yeah, I looked at the Florida Highway Patrol website in terms of traffic incidents, and it is dotted with several crashes right now. So you put this many cars on the road, this much panic, this much distraction, there are going to be accidents. And we do know in talking with eyewitnesses that finding fuel can be difficult. Certainly finding lines for fuel is the norm, and you see that inside lane right there. That's a shoulder that they're riding on this particular stretch of I-75 northbound as they head for whether it's Orange County or beyond. I mean, my wife, I evacuated her and she's in Pensacola, so you've got to be smart too about your evacuation. Do you go 20 minutes? Do you go 20 miles or do you go further? It all depends on your own situation. Now, before the hurricane arrives, local fire departments in Sumter County are encouraging you to check your fire extinguishers.
Yeah, you should check that expiration date on your extinguishers to make sure they are current. You should also change your smoke alarm batteries. These safety precautions are all part of National Fire Prevention Week, which runs through Saturday. Also, carbon monoxide detectors. I mean, we have seen what has happened tragically when people use those generators in the wrong way. And, you know, the state has actually been pushing for generator safety and explaining to people the right way to use them and the wrong way to use them.
Don't run them in your garage. Don't run them in your screened-in porch. Run them away from your house. Yes. Seems obvious, but people don't want to go outside and put those, put those machines out there, but they're made for being wet, so that's not a problem. Let's go on over to David and Tom. They are in Severe Weather Center 9. These two fellas are experts when it comes to hurricane and hurricane safety.
Yeah, this is going to be take all of us to watch this thing around the clock. And right now, still roughly 620 miles, give or take, away from the West Coast. I think it's peaked in its intensity for the moment, but it still has a lot of growth going on.
Correct, yeah. And it looks like you were talking earlier, there may be what we call a second eye wall attempting to develop.
Yeah, it's
35 miles early to know how this plays out. However, this is normally the beginnings, and it's about a 6-hour process. But there's normally the beginnings what we call an eye wall replacement cycle, which means our itty-bitty eye, which is only 4 miles wide right now, will likely expand. It will kind of probably plateau the storm, maybe actually weaken it a little bit, but then, Tom, the wind field expands a little bit.
Yeah, so the good news is the pressure may rise a little bit. The bad news is it's because the eye is expanding. So that's that wind field expanding, and it will keep expanding until it hits Florida, but it will not hit Florida as a Category 4 or a 5, probably a 3.
Yeah, and a lot of that will be the eye wall replacement cycle, but we also have two other features in play here. One is we have a lot of dry air up here in the southeastern United States. This is a big change from what we would see in September.
Oh, of course.
Where now it's really fall here in the Midwest and even parts of the upper southeast. So that dry air will begin to sneak its way in. That will kind of disrupt the system. And just north of us, especially here through Panama City, Valdosta, up through parts of Savannah, huge what we call jet streak, or a lot of wind shear up here. Hurricanes, they like to be vertically stacked like this, and what wind shear does, it kind of disrupts that upper part of the hurricane, so that we think is going to weaken it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of inside baseball that we're going over with you here, but this all interprets out to the fact that the storm will still be a huge threat, but not a Cat 4 or 5 at landfall, we don't think. Right now, the Future Track model, which has done a great job on several of our other storms, giving us another relatively quiet day tomorrow. First part of Wednesday's quiet, but by the lunch hour, here's the hurricane, and these are the outer feeder bands, and that's going to have some tornado threat with it.
And some of the models that I've seen kind of come in today, this band here could be very, very significant. These are not going to be the outer bands that we dealt with Helene, where we just had some gusty squalls. These are going to be some very significant winds with maybe a tornado threat and some very significant tropical downpours as those bands begin to arrive. And this clock here takes us 6 o'clock.
You know, and if we can use other storms as a reference point, by this time, we're going to start showing you the power outage maps, and they are going to start to climb quickly with the first outer bands from this particular storm. But you can see here, we showed you like mid-afternoon, drive time on Wednesday evening. Look at all this weather over the state. That's why we need you in your safe spot Wednesday afternoon.
That's why tomorrow is such an important day for all of us here, because it's going to be the last full day to get our hurricane preparations all squared away. And then as we head towards the early morning hours on Thursday, weather really goes downhill quickly across all of Central Florida as we're nearing a landfall somewhere Tampa Bay, maybe as far north as the Nature Coast or maybe south towards the Sun Coast.
Yeah, you don't want to put this big guy anywhere, but we're going to continue to monitor, of course, for storm surge along the Gulf Coast. But very heavy wind and rain. Where you see that fuchsia color, that is incredibly powerful wind and rain on the northern eye wall. And this is going to roll right through, we think, along near the I-4 corridor and come right toward Metro Orlando, Lake County, and lots of wind and rain on the north side of the track.
And normally when we talk about hurricanes impacting Metro Orlando, they are significantly weakened. If you remember with Irma, made landfall way down near Marco Island. So by the time it got here, it was still a large system, an impactful system, but kind of broken apart. This looks like it's going to keep what we call its core, kind of this area right here. Hurricane force winds will likely go all the way out here towards the east coast of Florida. Then as we head towards the afternoon hours in Volusia and Flagler County, we're going to be dealing with onshore winds.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible onshore wind event like we had with Ian, okay? And let me just show you, this is one forecast run, and we'll keep this updated, but I think this is not far off. We could easily see well over a foot, 15 inches of rain along the east coast. It's going to be raining for about 24 hours and at least 10 in Orlando, a little bit less to the south, including Brevard County may miss some of the worst flooding.
Yeah, so we don't think we're going to be talking about the historic almost 500-year flood numbers that we dealt with Ian. But these numbers, double digits, are going to be impactful. We're going to have some flooding issues. If you live in a flood-prone area, start thinking at some point, I could be dealing with flooding in my neighborhood.
Just to give you a sneak peek here, some of the wind speeds coming through. This is going to be Wednesday evening with the outer rain squalls, 9 p.m., 50, 40, 52. Okay, this is 3 o'clock in the morning, so the storm is way over here, and we already are getting winds. There's 86. It's just one point on the map here. That's 6 a.m. Thursday. And look at Cocoa Beach over by you.
Yeah, and that's another storyline. And one thing we really want to stress here tonight is this is a Gulf system. If you live along Brevard Coast, Volusia, Flagler Coast, sometimes have a tendency to tune these out. Do not do so with this one. This one's going to be a very impactful storm, including right along our beaches, because we're going to have onshore winds here in Brevard County and onshore winds later on into parts of Flagler and Volusia.
And you can kind of see the circulation here. It's going to be the eye near Winter Haven, perhaps, in this model, but it may shift around a little bit. I'm just giving you some rough guidelines here, but 60, 73, 84. This is why we have the hurricane warnings out for the entire area. So worst weather will be Thursday. Hunker down, especially Wednesday afternoon, and certainly no later than Wednesday night. So this is a marathon, not a sprint, and thankfully we have this time for folks to get ready.
Yeah, still have a day, maybe a little bit of time in the morning hours on Wednesday to get to get everything together. But if you have anything outdoor that needs to be done, you have a lot of patio furniture, you have a lot of, one of my neighbors, tons of Halloween decorations.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's just not going to be good enough to deflate them. They all are going to have to come inside. Hurricane shutters, if you have them and you live along the coastline especially, those need to go up tomorrow. Tomorrow I don't think it's going to be as rainy, so it's a great day to get your outside stuff done. And know the clock now is beginning to tick a little bit. As we said here, Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, everyone needs to start being inside and really getting ready for this.
We're all here for you. We'll get you through this, guys.
That's right. I had to take my 12-foot skelly down because I didn't want him to blow away
Blow that
during
in my
the
yard.
storm.
That would be scary. If you are worried about sandbags, maybe there's a shortage in your area or you just can't get around to it, you can go to one of the hardware stores or lawn and garden stores, and some of the things that do work are the bags of like topsoil or the bags of mulch, and you can put those around any areas that you're concerned that would be breached by water, and they will help to deflect the water around your structure. So it does not have to be sand per se. There are some things in your home and garden section that
That's where FHP gets their fuel and relief and service vehicles on this major evacuation route. So if you need to get gas, that's a good spot for you to get it.
All right, it's 10 o'clock. Quick break right now. This 10 o'clock hour is going to have a whole lot of news for you, including the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. We'll check back in with our team of meteorologists. As you can see tonight, if you just watched that last forecast, they are experts when it comes to this. And again, they hopefully are going to be answer your questions, the questions that you may have, and also help all of us feel just a little bit more secure as we enter into the hours where Milton is knocking on our door.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, a lot of people believe we are living in the last days. Current news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm. A new series, now playing only on Channel 1 Atlanta.
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
is now 10:03. I'm Greg Ormeth. This is a Monday night. Boy, by this time on Wednesday night, we will start to really feel the impacts. But here's the key and why we are on. Now is the time to prepare for a storm that's going to be none that we have seen in our lifetime in terms of its impact and the way that it's coming into Florida with such ferocity.
And good evening. I'm Martha Sagowski. We're here to get you through, and our team of meteorologists monitoring everything that is going on with Milton. The very latest track, we'll bring that to you in just a little bit. First, though, Channel 9's Daryl Matthews is live for us in Kissimmee right now. And Daryl, you're at a local Publix. Are things flying off the shelves?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hot ticket item right now is water and toilet paper. As you can see right behind me, well, this moment just put her groceries away, but just a few seconds ago, she had a case of water. And then every person that goes inside of this Publix that closes at 10 o'clock has been coming out with at least one case of water in their cart, or two people holding them on their shoulders. Now, this local supermarket, you can see that the growing urgency is to get in, get out, and get in the house for people finding those last-minute essential items like bottled water, canned goods, and bread. Many are stocking up for potential power outages and supply shortages. The atmosphere is tense inside of that grocery store, but it's focused with people moving quickly to find what they need. However, the demand is outpacing supplies. Shelves that once held water and non-perishable foods and items like batteries are rapidly emptying. But hear from someone who's experiencing Hurricane Milton for the first time in Florida.
There's a lot of items that are missing, you know, especially water. Yeah, it's out of stock. Not really, to be honest. I was expecting that I will find something. Although it's my first year here in Florida, so.
Now, going inside of this Publix, I took a walk around the aisles, and those water aisles and those toilet paper aisles are empty. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to stock them up for tomorrow, but the store is now closing up. As you can see, it's starting to empty out. People are just coming out, but they will be open tomorrow at 6 a.m. for people who still need to come out and grab those last-minute items before we get hit by Hurricane Milton. Greg, Martha.
All right, good to know that they do have water occasionally, and they're restocking those shelves tomorrow. Again, the big preparation. Water super important. It probably is one of the biggest things that you need to do for a hurricane in terms of preparation for your home and your family, because there are some microbes that get into our water supply, and then you'll start to hear a boil water alerts until they can get things cleaned up. And it's essential for a gallon per person in your house per day, and anticipate us needing it for at least 5 days.
All right, Central Florida, home to some of the best theme parks, as you know, in the world, but many of them will be shutting down this week.
Yeah, and let's check in on the very latest. They are our largest employer. Channel 9 anchor Alex Walker joins us live in studio with an update on our parks, zoos, and attractions. Alex?
Yeah, hey guys. So many people come to Central Florida for our theme parks, and for those planning to go this week, even before Hurricane Milton, we have a few answers about local attractions that are closed and attractions that are taking a wait-and-see approach. Legoland has announced they are closing on Wednesday and Thursday. At this time, the Legoland Hotel will remain open at a limited capacity. On the western side of the state, Busch Gardens Tampa is closing starting tomorrow through Thursday. They said to check their social media channels for status on their reopening. Gatorland has announced they are closing on Wednesday and Thursday. And the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens closing starting tomorrow. They'll be closed on Wednesday and Thursday as well. And at this hour, the Disney parks remain open. Universal Studios, Aquatic Orlando, and SeaWorld also remain open. We should have an update on those parks tomorrow. If you're curious about when the parks are going to shut down or if they shut down, if you go to the social media channels on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram, there's actually a little key that you can click. And as soon as they post, it'll send you a text alert and let you know right away. A little fun fact there for you.
Good information there, Alex. Thanks so much. Well, right now, some Central Florida counties are facing mandatory evacuations.
Yeah, Volusia County, and we know that they're just going to get hammered as that storm comes ashore, and then with those strong winds pushes all that water and rain into Volusia County. In fact, folks that live along the intracoastal waterway should be evacuating soon as Hurricane Milton approaches. They are expecting people and anticipating that they'll play along. 8 a.m. on Wednesday is your deadline to leave the barrier island there in the intracoastal waterway. It also applies to manufactured and mobile homes in Volusia County, low-lying areas, and campsites.
All right, Marion County's mandatory evacuation will be in effect tomorrow at 6 p.m. That will be affecting mobile homes and RVs. Well, if you or anyone you know needs to evacuate because of Milton, Rosen Hotels and Resorts is offering a discounted rate.
Yeah, the so-called distress rates range from only $69 up to $139 a night, not including taxes. Rosen is a pet-friendly hotel, as are all the hotels by state law. They're mandated to allow pets during an evacuation situation. The Rosen Company offering discounts for Hurricane Helene and other storms in the past. They have been a good community partner, as many people have come here from outside the area and many within the area have sought shelter. Hospitals in our area are also mobilizing all their efforts to prepare ahead of Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, Advent Health and Orlando Health have both stockpiled thousands of gallons of water and generators to run the hospitals in case of an emergency and power outages. Sandbags are secured and placed along doors and windows. Emergency rooms and hospitals will remain open at this time. We've seen in Tampa with Helene, they had those aqua fences that they use to
hope
keep
it's enough.
the water from getting into the hospital.
I think it worked the last time pretty well for them, and I saw that they've installed those for this latest storm.
Well, let's hope, it's going to come down to where that center crosses the coast, right? You've got onshore winds on the south side, and if it hits just on the north side of Tampa, that Pinellas County area, it's going to push all that water in, probably twice as much as they had with Helene.
If it comes a little further south, it could actually suck all the water out of Tampa
We've seen
Bay.
that happen. We saw it happen with Irma. We saw it happen with Ian. It's like the craziest thing. People are out there. I'm like, what are you doing? But yeah. All right, so we've got a big storm, and we still have time. And again, this is the one saving grace with hurricanes of this size, is we have time to watch this rascal. Right now, you can see about 600 miles roughly off the coast. It is still moving due east. It's got to do this long, circuitous route and get up into all this strong wind shear. And this is definitely our friend right now, because that will help to weaken the storm, but it's also growing at the same time. So it will still have major impacts. So, as we talk a lot about, now, tomorrow, even into early Wednesday morning, you still have prep time. But by Wednesday afternoon, rain and wind squalls will be increasing throughout the day, especially later in the afternoon. The worst impacts will be saved for Thursday, but prepare for power to start going out on Wednesday, because that's when those first outer rain bands will start coming on through. And there's a tremendous amount of upper level wind energy through here. You notice how the clouds are just racing up here toward the north and east right now. That is going to be something that will weaken this storm. It's down here in this very nice, tidy, perfect environment to become one of the strongest hurricanes we've ever had in the Gulf Coast. But this will gain latitude, get closer, and start to weaken. The storm's going to get tilted a little bit. Dry air will start mixing into this very humid storm, but it's still going to have major impacts. And again, we'll have a track update here at probably about 30 to 35 minutes from now. I don't think they're going to shift the track around a whole lot. You can see this is going to be Thursday morning through the afternoon. And again, these times we will be fine-tuning, because the storm will be changing its speed. It doesn't exactly have a speed limit sign we can check, or so we'll be tracking this. And you can see the forecast computer models, a couple outliers to the south, but usually they're all pretty tightly packed right in and around the Tampa Bay area. So the hope for Tampa is that this can come in just a little bit south, but of course we have lots of people that live south. So this whole area will get hammered, perhaps some of the worst weather they've ever had in 100 years. So the worst weather for us will be Thursday, but prepare to hunker down Wednesday, especially Wednesday night, and that's when I think power is going to start to go out. And of course, the other side of this is going to be the amount of water that we get inside this particular storm, because it's going to be extreme right now. I want to back this up one frame. I just went past the model data. I'm trying to stretch this model out as far, there we go, as far as I can so we can see the data. But you see 13, 14, 15 inches of rain. This is not hyperbole. This is probably going to verify, because we're going to get extremely high rain rates, and for several hours along our coast, probably 10, 12 inches in Orlando. We had about 16 from Ian, but this again happens at the end of the wet season. You can see where the dry air is going to make its presence felt. We think much less of a flood threat overall across our southern counties. And we're going to be breaking these counties out into more specificity now that we're getting a little closer to the event, a little bit better information. I don't want to do just a whole bunch of county stuff and just try to make up some numbers here. We want to try to be as precise as we can. But the worst weather Thursday night through Wednesday night, Thursday morning, power loss will probably start Wednesday. Trees will start coming down as the outer rain bands come through, and the worst weather will be Thursday morning. And this right now is the center line of the track coming right through. 5 to 10 inches of rain, perhaps a little bit more here on the north side of the lake and Volusia County lines here especially. We'll get some good winds over here too. Here's Orange, Seminole, Osceola County again Thursday morning, but we'll start losing power Wednesday night. And we have graphics that we'll be able to show you, the same ones from Helene. We went county by county and showed you all that stuff up in the Panhandle. We'll do the same, unfortunately, for us, and we're going to have a lot of people without power by Thursday night. Flagler, Volusia, Brevard. This will come in 2 waves. It'll be the outer rain bands Wednesday, the worst weather Thursday as the eye comes through, and then perhaps even worse weather after it moves offshore, because we're going to shove all that wind and rain right into our northern beaches. That's why you saw the rain totals as high as they were, 13 to 15 inches of rain, which at least in our northern zones may surpass what we had with Ian. Ian, I think, was 22 inches in Volusia County at Daytona. May not surpass that. God, I hope not. And as far as the power outages, again, widespread right along the track of this particular storm. The bottom line, though, after this is we will have some very nice fall-like weather. That's the consolation prize here. After all this moves through, we're going to have drier weather. And as you can see, guys, after about 36 hours of hurricane conditions and squalls, we will have some good weather for picking up and assessing what's been happening.
That is excellent. That's the silver lining here. And again, the impacts, that's why we're here. 53 hours or so out from when the storm will be felt with its most significant impacts to the heart of Central Florida. But again, as Tom said, it'll be Wednesday night. So tomorrow is our day. Tomorrow's our day to get ready.
That's right. Make sure we talked about Halloween decorations coming down, that you're gassed up, that you have maybe some cash on hand. You know, just be smart. Involve your kids in this. We've talked about, you know, making sure that they're okay with all of this. They're part of the plan, part of the process, and we're here. Yeah, but we'll get you through it.
Yeah, mental health experts strongly encourage the kids to do what they can that's safe to help out as well. We'll be back as we continue our coverage. It's now 10:15. Again, we're expecting the latest track, the official track, to come out shortly. We are tracking Milton with our continuing coverage and helping all of us get through this and make sure we're prepared for when the storm actually hits us Wednesday into Thursday. It's already record-breaking, 175-mile-per-hour plus wind, strongest hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico to come from, again, the Pacific our way. It will not be, in terms of the category, that strong likely when it makes impacts with Florida, but its wind field is so large, and the way that it's going to impact Florida with that perpendicular, not parallel approach will have significant impacts. That is the latest as it's now 10:19. Good evening, I'm Greg Warmouth.
And I'm Martha Sagowski. As Florida continues to recover from Hurricane Helene, as many as 15 million people, Greg, right now under flood watches, and 11 million people at risk for tropical tornadoes tomorrow and Wednesday. Mandatory evacuations. We've seen people leaving the west coast of Florida, making their way here to central Florida to escape any damage that could come their way. Well, Channel 9's Asha Webb is live in Oviedo for us tonight.
And you're at a local gas station there. And again, you were at one of the places that's able to pump fuel. And it looks like you got a lot of people trying to do that.
It's been really busy here, and this is what we have seen at gas station after gas station. Dozens of cars. You can see this line stretches all the way back into the strip mall down to that Dairy Queen that you can see over here. And this is only one of two lanes. You can see that second lane over there that actually wraps around the Wawa. That we are at the Wawa in Oviedo off of Red Bug Lake Road. And I got to say, you know, when you look at these lines, it looks really daunting. You're like, oh, well, how long are you going to stay in this line? I got to say, you know, when my photographer and I, we got in the line just to fuel up our news vehicle. It took about 15 minutes, so it's not as bad as it looks. And they are running this thing really efficiently. Earlier, Oviedo police were here. Now it looks like Wawa employees are sort of directing traffic outside of here now. But, you know, be prepared to wait if you are getting in these lines. But that's if you actually find a gas station with gas. Other gas stations we've swung by don't have lines because simply they don't have gas. Just being around town today, you can really feel the stress, the frustration from folks around here trying to prepare, getting fuel for their vehicles and generators. Some of the grocery stores in the area are also really swamped, people stocking up on water and food. I just swung into the Publix not far from here in Winter Springs, and I was preparing, just getting water and food and things for the hurricane. And, you know, they're planning to close early tomorrow, sometime around 6 p.m. before the storm is expected to move through Wednesday. County officials are telling folks to just have patience and prepare the best they can. Chairman Jay Zimbauer says Seminole County is seeing historically high groundwater. The ground is already very saturated after Helene and other recent heavy rainfall. And with that, there is a higher risk for trees falling and down power lines. And with that, Emergency Management Director Alan Harris said they are expecting a lot of debris.
It's also important for the residents to know we do expect a lot of wind. When wind exceeds 70 miles an hour, our roadway operations will cease. We will halt those operations until those extreme winds die down to under 70 miles an hour. We will get to you, but again, if you are told to leave, you should heed those warnings.
And that was actually the wrong soundbite, but what we were meaning to tell you guys is that they are expecting, just on estimates of the debris, that they are expecting 3 million cubic yards of debris to 10 million cubic yards of debris from Hurricane Milton. And they gave the example of comparing that to, in Disney terms, to 33 spaceship Earths at Epcot. So if you guys know the big center of Epcot, 33 of those, that's how much debris they are expecting in this area. They're also encouraging people to sandbag their homes now. Already the county has distributed more than 40,000 sandbags over the weekend, thousands more today. Many sandbag locations will be open until noon tomorrow. Those locations are listed on our website, WFTV.com. Also tomorrow, if you guys are looking for a place for shelter, we are expected to hear those locations sometime probably after early dismissal in Seminole County Schools. So as soon as we learn those, we'll be sharing those on our website as well. But for now, reporting in Seminole County, Ashley Webb, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
And, you know, we heard from the governor earlier today, Greg, and he has been quite clear that he's asked for more diesel, more fuel, tens of thousands of gallons so that we have it here so that folks don't run out of gas.
And Ashlyn, I know she's still with us. Seminole County, like so many of our counties, has a very unique setup. I mean, they have Lake Jessup, they have the St. Johns River, they have a lot of treed areas. They have some areas that are along the Wekiwa River Basin that have flooded in the past. They also have a dense population of people living in various areas that have flooded. So Ashlyn, for those emergency responders, they went out and they spent $1 million of taxpayer money to get those rescue vehicles. And I know they were talking about those outdated ones they had the last time there was a big storm. Well, all that build up, and I guess.
But you're right, because they were Vietnam era machinery, and it only could go so deep. And these new ones can go even deeper. It can hold more people. And you're right, they spent all this money, and they've got 2 of them.
And they got a lift on them, so people that are in a wheelchair or can't get up there by themselves. Let's go back over to Severe Weather Center 9, and I was going to ask that question of Ashlyn, but Tom, Seminole County, like so many of our counties, they're all unique. They all have their unique structures, their own unique forests, their own way of doing things. And Seminole County, we've witnessed, they have been peppered hard by storms.
You know, we've gone through a lot here. If you're new to Florida, we've been through a lot of storms in the last several years, so we've learned a lot of lessons. We've built up our infrastructure. We hope we can be more resilient during this storm, but this is going to be quite the wallop. Right now, still a Category 5 storm. We're waiting on the 11 o'clock advisory. It does have 2 eye walls now. Not uncommon in very powerful, intense hurricanes. An inner one that's smaller. The outer one's starting to take over, so it will go through these replacement cycles. It's just a lot of physics inside the clouds. Simply means that it's still evolving storm, and it's going to continue to show this ferocity out across the Gulf of Mexico. So for tomorrow, full hurricane preps continue. Evacuation orders will be underway, and people will still be getting where they're going and hopefully hunker down Wednesday late afternoon, because Wednesday night, Thursday, power is going to be lost. We're going to have lots of heavy rain, lots of strong winds. And we do have hurricane warnings out for the interior, and the brick red here is going to be hurricane watches. You're like, well, why am I not under a warning? Well, you will be. It's just a matter of timing. The watches, we're all expecting the same kind of hurricane force winds, 74 miles an hour and higher, but the watches are for 48 hours out. The warnings are 36. That's the only difference right there. So we're all going to be in the same warning boat together. And again, we'll have the new track here coming up soon. From what I can tell, I don't think they're going to move this around a whole lot. I think we're kind of getting a little bit better on the timing. The last part of this is going to be exactly where this center crosses the coast. Right now, they've kind of got it on the north side of Pinellas County, which would put a 10 to 15 foot catastrophic storm surge into Tampa Bay. If this is even 20 miles south, it may blow out the bay, where it blows the water offshore instead of in. So it's still going to be huge impacts through here. Big wind in that area as well, and we're going to get some of this. So plan on Thursday being your day to stay definitely hunkered down through the storm. It's going to be an overnight, early morning, afternoon type affair. But I do think starting Wednesday night, we're going to start losing power with the strong wind and rain bands that are coming on through, and still expecting a whole lot of rain. Just one run of our forecast model. We get them every 4 hours or so, but we've got lots of 8, 9, 12, 15. You get the idea. Lots and lots of heavy rainfall. And again, it's going to be centered on this northern side of the track itself. And this kind of matches up pretty well with some of our maps we've been using for the last couple of days, 6 to 9, 8 to 14. So flood threat perhaps not as high as with Ian, but pretty darn high. And again, it's at the end of the wet season when all the rivers and lakes are still relatively full. Storm surge potential, again, this is extreme, 10 to 15 foot surge over here in the Tampa area, or at least nearby. So this is going to be a huge issue. And of course, they still have debris, and they've had, I think, 1,000 National Guard out there trying to pick things up right now from the first storm. This is a good lesson for us too. If you do have damage perhaps from Helene, it's a good way to go out and take pictures so you can say, okay, this is the damage from this storm, and this is the damage I had from this storm, because we're going to have lots of insurance claims, FEMA, and all of that. So we're going to try to get through all of this together with you. Just a few light showers out there tonight, but a lot more heavy rains on the way. 6 to 12 inches of rain not out of the question. So for tomorrow over in Ocoee, I just picked one of my favorite spots on the map here. Temperatures in the 80s, winds picking up, but not too much. A little bit of on and off rain, nothing we can't handle, but we are going to see hurricane conditions late in the day Wednesday, likely most of the day Thursday, and then we're going to bring some rather fall-like weather, and we will need to have some nice weather like that. And this may stick around a little while too, because we're going to have a big mess, unfortunately, across the Sunshine State, guys.
And back to your comment on those water rescue units. I wrote down what you were talking about. They can carry up to almost 30 people, and they can go 50 inches in water now with these 2 new ones.
Yeah, the last one's from Vietnam that they used. And I covered some stories there at the Little Wekiva River Basin 7 years ago or so, where they rescued 50 people. So my point is that every community, every county in our viewing area will have different impacts that don't look like the other ones. And I feel for the people along our coast as well. They see this storm in the Gulf of Mexico with its intensification, but remember, it's not going to run this way. It's going to come straight across. And then those winds, like we saw with Ian, just absolutely battering our shoreline and just pushing all of that water. And it's going to happen at high tide quite possibly. And so that's why they're asking people on the Volusia County barrier island to get out of there by Wednesday. We'll be back as we continue our coverage. We are preparing you for the storm so that we are ready as a community to handle this and then move on and start the rebuilding process and have everybody alive and well when we're all done with this. We'll be right back.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. Stay with Channel 9 Eyewitness News as we track Milton. We'll be using the latest technology to constantly update the storm's path and timing. Watch live on air and download the Channel 9 weather app.
Entertainment, information, and events. You're watching The Daily 2.
Hi, I'm Megan Clementi, and you're watching The Daily 2. McCoy Federal Credit Union is making a profound difference for students in Central Florida. For many years, they've supported athletic programs at local high schools, engaged with students through their high school internship program, and helped build strong financial foundations by making financial literacy accessible to students and their families. Here to tell us more is President and CEO Alvin Cowens. Good to see you, AC.
It's a pleasure seeing you again, Megan.
AC, how is McCoy making a difference in our community?
We are making a difference because we are involved with the community. The community has needs, and wherever McCoy can step in and provide financial assistance, scholarships, we're there to help.
Financial education is a big part of what you do. Why is that so important to McCoy?
Well, credit unions are centered around people helping people, and financial literacy is something that we were not taught years ago, and only recently have that become part of the curriculum. And as that becomes more important, it helps the students learn how to manage their money better.
You mentioned a curriculum. Is that how you're making financial literacy more accessible to students?
It is. We actually have students that come and intern with us to learn about financial literacy. We actually go out to the schools and teach budgeting, teach all about investments. We teach them on how to manage their money.
Amazing. You're teaching life skills that we need for forever.
Yes.
Awesome. AC, thank you for being back on The Daily 2. And thank you to McCoy for always supporting and giving back to our community. If you'd like to learn more about McCoy Cares initiatives, simply visit mccoyfcu.org. Till next time, I'm Ben Clementi with The Daily 2.
The Rooms to Go 12-day fall sale is going on now, so let's go. Hurry to Rooms to Go. Check out our amazing selection and save big on the great-looking furniture you need. Living rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms, kids' rooms, mattresses, and more. Plus, to make buying easier, get 50-month interest-free financing. That's right, you get both low sale prices and 50-month interest-free financing at the Rooms to Go 12-day fall sale going on now.
What's next with Florida Blue? Let's talk mental health by talking, but also by moving and by not moving. Wow, you look relaxed. Let's find your health solutions. Florida Blue.
It is the bottom of the hour. We like to always check in with our meteorologists at the top of the bottom of each hour. We'll do that throughout the storm until it just intensifies to the point where we just stay with them. Good evening. I'm Greg Warmith.
And I'm Martha Sigalski. Thanks so much for being with us on this Monday night. We want to turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry and Meteorologist David Heckert. Guys.
All right, thanks a lot. And this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But this storm is still packing quite a wallop. And just to give you an idea of the latest, and we'll have the new advisory here soon. It's a Category 5 now. It will likely make landfall. Still, we think it's a Category 3, David. That's going to be Thursday early morning, more than likely.
Yeah, I know today's been almost shocking for a lot of people. It's been a little surprising to us here in the Weather Center. that 5's a big number. It is going to weaken. But that being said, Category 3 by definition is a major hurricane landfall. The threat of a major hurricane strike to Florida is increasing tonight.
That's right. Hurricane conditions are expected for all of us. That's why we have hurricane watches and warnings out. There'll be all warnings as we move closer. And again, as we await the 11 o'clock advisory, the pressure went all the way down to 897. Incredibly low number. The lower that number, the faster the winds can get. And to get below 900 is ridiculous.
Yeah, so to kind of put that in perspective, and again, we don't want to panic anybody, but 897, there's only been, since about 1979, when we have reliable pressure data, Tom, there's only been one other hurricane that's been below that in the Gulf of Mexico, and that was Rita in 2005. So this is kind of a rarefied class of hurricane we're dealing with tonight.
Yeah, and I remember after the problems with Katrina, Rita came along in 2005, and they had this enormous evacuation out of Houston. I remember from that storm, but this is not going toward Texas. It's coming towards Florida, and right now it has two eye walls, an inner and an outer, and we do think that this will go through these replacement cycles, David. So we're going to see fluctuations in strength, but still a massive Category 5 hurricane for at least another 24 hours.
Yeah, as you know, anytime we talk about double eye wall, we're probably in the infancy stage of what we call an eye wall replacement cycle, or an ERC. It takes about 6 hours to work its way through. What's likely going to happen is we'll probably see a plateau in intensity. It may actually dip a little bit in intensity, but the wind field will begin to expand, and then this time tomorrow, the eye, instead of being that pinhole eye of about 6 miles, will probably be something like 20, maybe 25 miles.
Yeah, so the bigger that eye wall gets, the strongest winds are around that diameter. So as the diameter gets larger, the overall wind field it gets larger, so it's still going to be a big storm. So as you make your full preparations, of course, we keep talking about your Halloween stuff, time to bring everything back in, unfortunately, your full hurricane kit and flood zones. Let's talk a little bit about that, because we're going to start, we already have some, I believe, starting, was it Wednesday or tomorrow, in Volusia County?
I believe we have some evacuations starting tomorrow.
I believe so. But anyway, we're going to start getting folks off of Volusia County on the barrier islands.
Yeah, and we may see more evacuations being ordered tomorrow, depending on the exact track of the storm. So if you live Zone A, probably Northern Brevard, Volusia, Flagler, go ahead and get that go bag ready. And if they issue an evacuation order, take it seriously. This is a very serious storm that we're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, that's right. Again, you run from water. You hide from wind, run from water, okay? So, again, this is going to be updated here soon. I don't think, David, from what we've been looking at back here, because the Hurricane Center will issue a track, and then we have 6 hours until they issue another one. So it's kind of like the quarterback handing off the ball to, and we juke and we. So we're kind of seeing what they're seeing, but I think they're going to keep this track very close to Tampa.
Yeah, and again, I know everyone's saying Tampa, Tampa, Tampa. Remember, this is a cone of uncertainty. So that still means this system could end up here near the Nature Coast. It could make landfall near Charlotte Harbor and parts of Fort Myers. But the likelihood of something happening that's going to be very big for the West Coast is really increasing tonight.
Yeah, and I think here, especially on the north side of where the track is, and here's the track right now, we're going to see some flooding problems. 6 to 9 inches of rain here. We could have 8 to 14 inches of rain, especially north of the track, because that's where the last rain will be hammering through Thursday afternoon.
And some of the dry air in parts of the southeastern U.S. we think will mix in with the system. So the southern edge, which is normally what we call the dirty side, may not have a ton of rain with it. I mean, 3 to 5 inches could be it for parts of southern Osceola, and you get down towards Palm Bay and Sebastian Inlet.
And of course, you know, the storm surge threat we'll be analyzing along the Gulf Coast. It's going to be extreme here, but also 2 to 4 feet of surge, especially in northern Brevard, I think, with the onshore wind, and 3 to 5 here on our northern beaches.
Yeah, we'll see what these numbers are here in the next day or two, but we're going to be talking about a very significant onshore flow here during the day on Thursday. High tide cycle, I believe you said, is going to be around Thursday afternoon. So we could be talking, that 3 to 5 could be bumped up a little bit here. That we could be talking about a surge event right along A1A there in the Barrier Islands.
But the good news is so far that we have time. Okay, so tomorrow still looks pretty good. One of my spots I go to all the time, Altamont Springs. Passing showers during the day, nothing too heavy tomorrow, but we're going to make up for it and then some, unfortunately. And again, we're still waiting on the 11 o'clock advisory. Should have that here before 11 o'clock. We'll pass it along to you guys.
All right.
Yeah, and that's the key. And then once that storm gets so close, then, you know, we know the path. But right now we watch for 11 and 5. Think of those 2 times, 11 p.m., 5 a.m., 11 a.m., 5 p.m. So it's 11, 5, 11, 5, 11, 5 throughout the day.
All right, we are expecting widespread power outages and downed trees from Milton across our area here in Central Florida.
Yeah, and I talked about the diversity of Central Florida, and what we can expect in each town and each city and each community is a little bit different. Channel 9's Nick Pampantonis joins us live from Apopka with the latest there. Nick.
Yeah, so the normal expectations for here in Central Florida, and here in Apopka especially, this is northern Apopka is where we are, the Rock Springs area. People are having a different set of preparations, just depending on who you are. There are some people that are focused on their windows right now. There are some people that have animals out here that are more worried about the animals. We talked to a woman earlier who had piglets. She's going to be pulling them on inside tomorrow to make sure that they are safe, less worried about her own house than she is about making sure those piglets survive. Nobody really knows what to expect outside of the general here. This is a lot more wind in Apopka than anyone has seen in quite some time here, and so that's got people on high alert. The gas station across the street from us, we just went to Ashland, who had a gas station with gas. This is one without gas. We did try ourselves, waiting to see if the tanker truck shows up overnight, as will many gas stations will have. So we talk about those gas shortages. We should have some relief tomorrow morning if you're one of those people that's sitting at home worried right now. Another thing that we're seeing shortages of, sand. We're going to get some more sand at sites throughout Central Florida here in the overnight hours before the sandbag sites open at 9 a.m. Barnett Park being one of those. Ice and water also short in the grocery stores right now, and this is one that we can help you with at this moment here. We have this ice stand that we've shown you a few times tonight. This is a place that is pumping out ice 24/7. Nobody's here right now. Nobody's been here when we gone live to this place at any point, but as soon as we turn the camera off, there's one or two cars usually, and they're filling up ice, making sure that they have what they need. There's these ice stands all over Central Florida here, and places like this are able to serve you at this hour tomorrow morning and until at least the power goes out, and this one does have a generator. That is a place where you can go. All day Monday, people in the Apopka area stopping by the ice stand at Rock Springs Road and Kelly Park Road, filling up their bags and coolers with ice and jugs with water. The stand, one of the last places to sell ice and water in the city after shoppers picked grocery store shelves clean ahead of Milton. Owner Becky Oldfield said they've had 2 or 3 times their normal customer load as word spread.
Not that this is something to celebrate, but I appreciate that we can be open for the customers and people that are running out of things that they are going to essentially need.
Next door, her father-in-law is preparing for the end of an era. The Rock Springs Bar and Grill, known for its burgers and no-frills atmosphere, is planning to close for the first time since Rip Oldfield bought the place in 1986, riding out one hurricane after another with a skeleton crew and 6 generators.
There's not too many businesses in the Tri-County area that's been open this long every day continuously. And we're going to do our best to keep her open. It just depends on the track of the storm.
Oldfield said they've moved a weekly dinner special to lunch so they don't run out of time on Wednesday. Next door at the ice stand, running out isn't something on Becky's horizon.
40 pounds every 8 minutes. No, I don't see us running out, and we're open 24 hours.
And in fact, it's open right now, even though nobody's taking advantage of it at the moment. Again, as soon as we can shut that camera off, there's going to be 3 cars in this parking lot right here. The bar is also closing for the night. They don't stay open 24 hours a day, but they did, again, every lunch and dinner service going back to 1986 there. And that includes, if they can manage it, Thursday lunch as well when they are set to open again. But that was also, it includes holidays where they feed the people in need in the community for free. That also includes the pandemic when they went to those bagged lunches. This is really a big moment for them. They're kind of thinking about how can we keep this place open, but they are taking this storm just as seriously out here, even more seriously than usual. They say over there, Tom Terry back in the studio, you're the one that they're watching right now, and what you say is going to dictate how this goes and whether this is the end of a chapter for them. For now, live in Apopka, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, it's not about closing. It's about the ability to reopen and to, re-engage our lives. And so it will be a struggle for many of you and for many of us. But the good news is Central Florida always comes out better than ever. We always do. And we've had a lot of storms come through. And each time Central Florida rallies and we come back.
We rebuild even better.
Well, parts of Volusia County are under evacuation orders. Those start at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Channel 9's Demi Johnson reports now from Daytona Beach.
I'm standing on Beach Street right now, where there are about 24 businesses that line Beach Street, and right across from here is the Halifax River. And you may remember during Hurricane Ian, the water from the river spilled out into the road. Some points of Beach Street had chest-deep, waist-deep water while the storm passed through our area. So businesses here are taking preparation seriously ahead of the storm. You can see many with sandbags in front of their doors. We've seen a few businesses with boards on their windows, but not all at this point. This business right here just put a sign up promising to be back after the hurricane with a smiley face, trying to keep things positive over here. But when you talk to people here in Daytona Beach or anywhere in Volusia County, there is a little bit of uneasiness. Talked to a few people today who said, you know, we didn't take the warning seriously during Hurricane Ian and we lost everything, or everything flooded, or the seawalls on the beach collapsed, and we never expected that to happen. So I think during this storm, people are taking those warnings a little bit more seriously. One warning from the county that we already know about going into Wednesday is a mandatory evacuation order for anyone who lives on the east side of the Halifax River. That's to protect you from getting trapped on the beach, because at some point on Wednesday night or even Thursday, our bridges will shut down when the wind speeds reach a sustained speed of over 40 miles an hour. So it will be near impossible for you to get from the beach back over to the mainland once that happens. So it's smart to heed those evacuation warnings and find a shelter or a hotel for you and your family to stay in. We will be keeping in close contact with all county leaders. We're also talking to the sheriff's office nonstop about its plans to help rescue people should they be caught in the storm. But the best advice, again, is to heed those evacuation warnings and keep a close eye on all of the messaging coming out from the county. We'll be here for you, and we'll have updates on air and online. For now, reporting in Daytona Beach, Demi Johnson, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Demi, thanks so much. Tom joining us right now, and I'm just reading some interesting facts about Milton. Posted a pressure reading today of 897 millibars, placing it among the top 4 hurricanes for low pressure since 1979, and one of the most powerful in 45 years.
Yeah, and it's still a big one, and it's the wind field's going to expand. It's already, I think, perhaps bottomed out on its lowest pressure, and it had a really small eye. It's really, you can spin up that smaller storm really fast. As soon as it gets larger, it takes a lot more energy to do that. So,
you know, she's in Volusia County, Demi. That's where I went. When I was sitting here, when we were talking about Ian, I was sitting here, you were standing there, and I could see a monitor over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And it was our camera in Volusia County, and the flags were just whipping. Will this be replicated?
Yes.
See, and that damage there to Wilbur by the Sea and all of those
whether it's
condos.
exactly in that one location or maybe some different locations over a wider area. Ian had a real narrow, heavy rain band 2 years ago.
Because the way the wind is going to come around?
Yeah, it's going to come on, especially Thursday morning. And I've got a graphic, I'll show you that. But it's yeah.
This is replicating that shot when I was looking at you and I saw over your shoulder. I was like,
be
my
surprised
gosh.
if we still have flags left over, because our Daytona
We're all
Beach shot.
sheared that last time.
We've got the 11 o'clock advisory. Came in kind of early. I'll pass it along to you right now. Still a Cat 5. The winds did peak at like 180 earlier. They're 165. That's still way in the Cat 5 category. It kind of went through a little bit of a reorientation around the eye of the storm, and this is very common. It's hard for them to maintain that really, really crazy intensity for very long. But Cat 5 all the way through tomorrow night, Cat 4, 5, Cat 3, they sped things up just a tiny bit, and we're going to keep tweaking around the edges as we get closer. But again, this is getting pretty close to the track. You can see the margin of error is getting smaller and smaller as we get closer. We get more certainty on the steering currents in the atmosphere. So Wednesday, we'll have a Cat 3 over here, winds 125, and during the overnight hours, moving onshore and then coming across through and near Metro Orlando, perhaps just on the south side, but either way, close to Metro Orlando, and then moving through Brevard County. That is Thursday morning, 8 a.m., and Thursday night, 85. So this is still going to hold on to hurricane Category 1 status coming through nearly all of Central Florida. And here's the updated track. You can see fairly close north of the eye as it moves by is where we'll see the highest rainfall amounts, 8 to 14 plus, 6 to 9 plus across Metro Orlando. So flooding will be a concern, in addition to, of course, all the wind and the surge. They've left it alone at 10 to 15 feet, which would be record surge in the Tampa Bay area. Again, if it does sneak just a little south of Tampa Bay, it won't be quite as catastrophic in Tampa Bay, but we're kind of splitting hairs here. Excessive surge along the Gulf Coast, and of course 3 to 5 feet of surge along our northern beaches, especially into Volusia County, into Flagler County, all the way up and towards St. Augustine. We'll have a high tide Thursday afternoon, and that is going to be when the waters will be naturally rising due to the moon's tug against us, the gravitational attraction. So we're going to see some issues along our coast. Tomorrow we still have pretty good weather for your preps. Rain chance around 40% or so, maybe 50% rain chance. And then as you can see, we're going to see the worst weather arrive later in the afternoon on Wednesday. So I think by Wednesday mid-afternoon at the latest, we need you hunkered down because we're going to start getting those outer squally rain bands. Tornado warnings may be popping up. We'll be tracking those. They'll be moving very rapidly. We'll start losing power on Wednesday as well. So even before the worst of the hurricane arrives Thursday morning throughout the day, we're going to start seeing those incremental changes, and then it's going to really be something here on Thursday. And then after that, we do get a nice bout of fall weather for our recovery efforts, guys.
All right, Tom, thanks so much.
It's also important to, of course, prepare your food and your water and all those things. You have time to do that today. Pre-cooking things that, possibly goes bad is not a bad idea as well. So there's all sorts of little tips if you're new to the area to make certain that you get through it. We have tons of those tips on our website at WFTV.com.
We are tracking Milton for you. We'll be back right after this.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. Stay with Channel 9 Eyewitness News as we track Milton. We'll be using the latest technology to constantly update the storm's path and timing. Watch live on air and download the Channel 9 weather app.
When people stop me to ask, what's my case worth, here's what I tell them. All law firms are not the same. You see, the most important part of anyone's injury case
Milton. Good evening. I'm Greg Wormuth.
And I'm Martha Sigalski. Thanks so much for staying with us on this Monday night as we prepare ourselves for Milton. It's important to understand the scope and magnitude of this powerful storm. Take a look at these images. This is a look at the eye of that hurricane from the International Space Station. This was taken earlier today. I'm always fascinated by the magnitude and power of these storms by these satellite pictures. Cool to see.
Yeah, and a very tiny, tightly wound eye is why this thing was able to rapidly intensify from a Cat 1 hurricane this morning when I woke up to a Cat 5 when I sat down to join you this afternoon. In fact, if there were such a thing, this would be quickly approaching possibly Cat 6 status, although it's not anticipated or forecast to be at that level. Just a huge wind field when it comes ashore, wherever that may be. At roughly about 3 o'clock in the morning is when we'll see the significant impacts here in Central Florida.
We want to see how you...
Not this morning, by the way. That'll be Thursday morning.
Thursday morning?
Mm-hmm.
Thursday morning. We want to see how you are making your final preps. To show us how you're getting ready for Milton, you go to our WFTV.com page/share your photos. Do it safely. We always tell people we appreciate your photos, but do it safely.
And the one thing, we're going to go back over to Tom Terry, the one thing that I just received, and I get a lot of messages when I'm here, and I try to answer all those on social media or however you're reaching out to me. And one of the most recent ones, and I want to ask Tom this question, comes to us from one of our viewers, a local retired pastor who wanted to know his kids want him to evacuate the state of Florida. Is that a good idea if you're here in Orlando, or are you better off just sitting still?
Well, there's a lot of people on the road right now, so that's something to take into consideration. If you're in a relatively modern home, you can probably stay hunkered down where you are. Sometimes it's safer to stay put. If you're in a mobile or trailer or RV, something like that, perhaps you should be getting out of the way of this storm. But everyone's decision's their own, but sometimes sitting still is better. This is going to be a pretty widespread event right now for us. The winds are down from 180 to 165, still way, way, way high on our scale. Cat 5, Cat 3 at landfall. Landfall roughly around midnight Thursday morning, Wednesday night, Thursday morning time frame, and hurricane conditions still expected for all of us. We're still kind of digesting the 11 o'clock advisory coming in from the Hurricane Center, but still a Cat 5 winds. It's moving due east now at 9 to 9.5 miles an hour. So make your full preparations. Make sure you secure those outdoor items. Our hurricane kit, that's tarps and things like that you may need for some minor home repair. Be very careful in after this. We're going to have a lot of trees down and power lines, etc. Assume all power lines are live, by the way, as well. Flood zones here. Make sure you have a go bag so you can get out if water starts rising. Complete all this by Wednesday afternoon. That's when some of the outer rain bands are going to start coming in, perhaps as early as Wednesday morning. So here's the track, still bringing it up near the coast of Tampa by roughly midnight or so. We'll be fine-tuning the timing as the storm gets a little closer. But as you can see, this is going to travel through the overnight hours, early Thursday morning. There's Thursday at 8 o'clock, Category 1 hurricane, and maintaining Category 1 hurricane offshore. So Wednesday, we need you home and hunkered down. So we've got basically tomorrow, maybe early Wednesday morning, and then the outer rain bands are going to be approaching, and we're going to have problems. Guys, much more coming up.
All right, Tom, and it's important also as we have street flooding and those things, because maybe you won't have power or television when this happens. The kids are going to want to get out once the storm passes, but so much danger in the water. Assume that the water is electrified. If not, it also could have various pollutants in there as well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back straight up at 11 o'clock. Martha, as we continue tracking Hurricane Milton tonight.
There's always
Florida's west coast.
Please take the appropriate precautions, listen to your local officials.
While some Floridians are caught in serious traffic in an effort to evacuate.
It's pretty backed up. I mean, we're in some type of a traffic jam on a turnpike, so I don't know.
Others are staying put, preparing and praying for the best.
We have to all stick together as a community and pull people out of the holes that they're in and connect the power for them and provide ice, provide water, food.
Severe Weather Team 9 will be with you every step of the way as the Sunshine State braces for an unprecedented storm.
This will still be a huge major impact for Florida.
From the latest advisories to reports from the field, we have live, in-depth coverage of Hurricane Milton. Good evening. It is 11 o'clock. I'm Greg Wormuth.
And I'm Martha Sagowski. Thanks for staying up with us as we get you through and continue to track Hurricane Milton. We want to turn things over right now to Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry and Meteorologist David Heckert. And you guys just got that track a little bit ago. Anything major changing on the track of Milton?
Well, the winds went down a little bit, but that's only because the center is actually getting bigger. So that is not a plus right now. And David, this is still a very powerful Cat 5 north side of the Yucatan Peninsula and still extremely powerful.
And the good news tonight, it does look like we have plateaued here in this almost explosive strengthening. The pressure's gone up to 914. It was 897 here at 8 o'clock. And Tom, as you just mentioned, it looks like we have the beginnings, what we call an eye wall replacement cycle, which is going to slow everything down a little bit, but it also expands the wind field.
Yeah, so you can't, no such thing as a free lunch. So the pressures are going to rise a bit, but the eye wall is going to expand. So this is still going to be a Cat 5, we think, throughout the day tomorrow, weakening perhaps Tuesday night, Wednesday morning to a 4, and then again down to a 3. But then it's going to probably take frictional effects of moving off the water and over land, plus a little bit of shear to bring this down even further. But still a huge wind field with this, David.
Yeah, that's going to be the storyline here. And again, this is not going to be a Category 5 by the time it gets here, but you can see the 3 there off the coast of Tampa. This is still going to be a major hurricane strike, and the threat for very significant impacts is now really increasing somewhere from the Nature Coast, Tampa Bay, through the West Coast. And unlike some systems that kind of fall apart once they get here, this core is likely going to remain in place. In fact, this is, I believe, is on land here at 8 a.m. on Thursday, still a Category 1 hurricane.
Yeah, so we still have lots of impacts, and we're all going to be dealing with this. And so we need you ready to be hunkered down by Wednesday night at the very latest. But I think Wednesday afternoon, we're going to start getting some outer rain bands that you're certainly going to have to. Matter of fact, when you see this again, I'm going to change this back to Wednesday, probably noon, because we have kind of, I think, perhaps sped things up just a bit. And you just we were working on these graphics. We get this information, we fine tune it, we regionalize it. And this is going to be a huge issue with winds coming through and heavy winds and rain all the way into parts of Polk, southern Sumter County.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of the worst of the worst, we think, in this corridor here from Spring Hill, Tampa, Sarasota, all the way south into parts of Charlotte County. We're probably going to have wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. Extensive power outages in the Tampa Bay metropolitan area are becoming now likely.
And coming through Metro Orlando. And we just update early warning future track, and this model will kind of adjust a little bit every time we run it. But just to give you a feel for things, scattered showers tomorrow, but then you can notice here as early as Wednesday morning, this kind of sped up some of the timing of some of the outer peripheral impacts from this storm, and you can see where the rain's already starting to add up.
So the slight increase in time here by the NHC really now stresses tomorrow's your last full day to get everything together, especially if you have outdoor things, shutters, things on your patio, lanai that need to come indoors. That has to get done tomorrow because the window will close very quickly, potentially on Wednesday.
Yeah, and you can see, again, some of the outer feeder bands, the rain bands, these will have some wind shear with us, so we may have some tornado warnings to pass along. Everything's going to be moving very, very fast, and here comes this big Cat 3 hurricane, probably by this point, Wednesday afternoon, and approaching the Gulf Coast. And right now, the model kind of shows it perhaps just a hair south of Tampa Bay. That would blow out the bay offshore, but it's going to be extremely tight.
Yeah, the actual location is not set in stone, and it probably won't be until we get within about 18 to 24 hours or so, and that's going to be critical with some of our friends out in the Tampa, Sarasota area. The further south this goes, the more we're going to have not a big of a surge event in the Tampa area. This thing goes into Pinellas County or even Pasco County. We could have some almost catastrophic storm surge there in the
Yeah,
West
and
Coast.
this model is about 4 hours faster than the official track, so give or take late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. And we were just working on this. You were just working on some of the county-by-county impacts. Polk County, this is going to be where we're going to get some really serious wind and rain coming on through. Wind gusts easily over 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be a gradient here in Polk County, Davenport, Winter Haven. Some power outages are going to be extensive, but we're talking about widespread power outages, Lakeland, Fort Meade, back to the Hillsborough County line there.
Yeah, and at least 4 to 8 inches of rain. But the farther south we go, some of that drier air will help reduce some of the flood threat. And Sumter, the Villages, Leesburg, Claremont, Eustis, Astor, Altoona, Lake Mary, Mount Dora. The worst weather will be Wednesday afternoon and evening through about daybreak on Thursday with widespread power loss, and we're probably going to start losing power on Wednesday before the storm even makes landfall.
Correct, yeah, and along and just north of this track, we're also expecting some very significant rainfall, 6 to 9 inches of rain. Probably gonna have some flooding issues here in parts Sumter and Lake County.
Yeah, so a lot of weather, especially to the west. And we get into our friends in Osceola County. This is going to kind of be interesting to watch because if the track is right in through here, I think on the north side we'll have some of the heavier wind and rain where the raindrops are kind of that mass of the rain is kind of helping to translate the winds down, David. But I think 4 inches maybe south and maybe 8 inches across the north side of the county.
Yeah, this could be where the actual core comes through. So again, southern areas like Yeehaw Junction, maybe 4 or 5 inches. Could have 8, maybe 9 inches, Kissimmee, St. Cloud.
Yeah, in Orange County, we're expecting power loss. We have lots of beautiful trees. Unfortunately, we're going to have issues there. Power loss, trees down, wind gusts over hurricane strength. That's why hurricane warnings are in effect. All through the area, 6 to 9 inches of rain. Expect to have basically all hazards.
Yeah, this is not necessarily, every storm's a little different. However, in terms of power outage and in terms of impact, we need to start thinking Ian, Irma type numbers here in Orange County.
Yeah, Irma was about 10 inches of rain. Ian was what, 16, 14, 16. Hopefully not quite that high, but it's going to be close. Seminole County, this is going to be in a band of really heavy rain as well during the late night hours, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 to 12 inches, 6 to 12 inches of rain. Wind gusts probably 75, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, this is, again, significant impacts for much of Seminole County, and we could have some wind gusts maybe above 80, 85 miles per hour.
Then we get to the coast. Okay, so I think some of our lower rainfall amounts may be in southern Brevard County, higher rainfall amounts, Cape Canaveral, Titusville.
Yep, and we're also going to have to worry about a storm surge event here. Storm surge watch continues for all of Brevard County. Right now, a storm surge of 2 to 4 feet, so keep in mind that's basically to the break wall, and in some cases over the break wall, some of the parking lots, some of those little alleyways and roads that go right up to the beach, probably going under during the surge.
And then we have Flagler and Volusia County, and this is where I think we're going to have more extensive rain and storm surge impacts, and this will be mainly a Thursday event for us here, although again we're going to get the outer rain bands on Wednesday, so we could start losing power Wednesday, so plan on Wednesday again to be hunkered down even at the beach.
Yeah, and back in the weather center, that's what we're really concerned about. This could be a prolonged event here in parts of Volusia and Flagler County. 3 to 5 feet of surge possible in Flagler, but look at those wind gusts, 85 miles per hour plus, and those may not arrive until we get towards maybe Thursday, midday Thursday afternoon.
Okay, guys, so that's county by county, and we will keep all these updated. This is part of what we're doing behind the scenes here. We get advisories, we get adjustments on things, and then we go in and we start tweaking all the numbers. And I'm going to go in and work on future track and see if we can firm up the timing there, but this is it. We're going to be watching it for you.
All right. Thanks so much, Dave and Tom. Well, shelters will begin to open across Central Florida starting tomorrow night, Greg.
Yeah, and Martha, they haven't announced most of those simply because there is school tomorrow. They don't want people showing up early. But we do know there are locations opening in Orange, Osceola, Marion, Volusia, Lake counties. Officials in Seminole County say they'll announce shelters tomorrow. And you can find the full list of exact locations and opening times on the main page of WFTV.com. We've also indicated which ones are pet friendly or specifically for people with special medical needs.
And all Central Florida school districts have announced closures because of Hurricane Milton.
And let's go through some of those. Osceola County, they've canceled their classes for Tuesday through Thursday. Brevard, Seminole, and Marion County schools plan to close Wednesday and Thursday. Orange, Volusia closed Wednesday and Thursday. Sumter, Flagler closed Wednesday through Friday, while Lake County is closed Tuesday through Thursday. This is all subject to change in terms of when you go back to school, if you have a student there, if there is power outage issues, if that place is being used still as a shelter. There are things that are still up in the air, but for right now, that is the list of cancellations.
Major Central Florida airports announced their closures today as Hurricane Milton approaches. Orlando International Airport will completely shut down Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tampa International closes tomorrow at 9 a.m. Melbourne Orlando International Airport will close to commercial flight operations at 2 p.m. tomorrow. But Sanford International Airport announced it's remaining open as it monitors Hurricane Milton. Channel 9's Ashlyn Webb is live for us tonight. She is in Oviedo.
Yeah, people trying to fill up. Let's see if that is still happening now at about 10 after 11. Ashlyn.
Yeah, that's still happening now, but luckily things have died down a good bit. Now about a dozen cars left in line, not nearly as bad as what it was about an hour ago. Remember, this line stretched all the way down to the Dairy Queen through this strip mall parking lot, and there was another lane, a second one, that wrapped around this Wawa. And they were directing traffic, police were earlier. Now things have died down a good bit. Now you'll probably wait about 5 minutes in line compared to about 15 to 20 minutes like before. But tomorrow we are expecting to see these lines pick up. County officials are telling folks to just have patience and prepare the best they can. Chairman J.M. Bauer says Seminole County is seeing historically high groundwater. The ground is already very saturated after Helene and other recent heavy rainfall like our meteorologists have been talking about. And with that, there is a higher risk for trees falling and down power lines. So with that, be prepared to hunker down a little bit longer. And Emergency Management Director Alan Harris said they are expecting a lot of debris. Listen in.
So the models currently show anywhere from about 3 million cubic yards of debris to 10 million cubic yards of debris could occur during Hurricane Milton. To put that into Disney terms, that is 33 spaceship Earths at Epcot Center. All right, that's a lot of debris to pick up, 33 spaceship Earths. It is going to take us a long, long time to pick up debris.
And Seminole County Fire Chief Matt Kenley says their teams are prepared for cleanup and for rescue. However, he wants to stress that people need to prepare to hunker down because if or when winds reach 70 miles per hour or more, law enforcement and other teams won't be able to get there. They're encouraging people to sandbag their homes. Already the county has distributed more than 40,000 bags, and they are expecting thousands more today and then into tomorrow. They are supposed to be closing some of those sandbag locations tomorrow at noon. We'll let you guys know if that changes. Those sandbag locations are listed on our website. The other thing that you guys might want to know about is shelters. We're still waiting to hear where those shelters will be. We probably will be hearing where those will be after the early dismissal of Seminole County schools tomorrow. They will be closed, the schools, Wednesday and Thursday, but we'll continue to update you guys with this information here in Seminole County. But for now, reporting in Seminole County, Ashlyn Webb, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Ashlyn, thank you. And we've seen flooding there at various times. Irma was one where we had 50 people rescued from high waters. Now they have, instead of those Vietnam area high water rescue vehicles, they purchased 2 brand new high water rescue vehicles. They hold more people, they can go in deeper water, and they have an easier way to lift people into those other than firefighters. They were injuring their back. So
they go up to 50 inches of water and hold 28 people because they were using old school stuff.
Old school. That will not be the case this time around. Those vehicles will be used whether it's in Seminole or other counties because flooding is highly likely. We'll be right back as we continue to track what is happening, including the roads are still tied up. This is I-75 northbound in Ocala, as again, this is likely the largest evacuation Florida has seen since Hurricane Irma in 2017 tore a path of destruction through Central Florida and through Florida. We'll have the very latest on the traffic issues and also the forecast. That's just ahead.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. Stay with Channel 9 Eyewitness News as we track Milton. We'll be using the latest technology to constantly update the storm's path and timing. Watch live on air and download the Channel 9 weather app. Big storms are what we do.
We've been doing this for years and years. We are all here to keep you safe together. We want to meet you where you are, and that means on our apps. We're on top of it, and we'll be with you every step of the way.
Because it's all about keeping you safe and informed.
Every day we're gonna try. What does it take to feel this alive? Chase down a fear so therefore die. What does it take to feel this alive?
Life is filled with twists, turns, and pivots. We can give up, give in, or give it all we've got. We're always believing, never ceasing, future shapers, difference makers, taking on the day. We're hope holding, tomorrow unfolding, the harmony in our symphony, the guardians of our shared human spirit. We all have a divine light to guide us. So whatever makes you feel whole, chase it. Advent Health. Feel whole.
Maria Reveles loves taxes. Taxes on income, taxes on marriage, even taxes on death. The only thing Reveles doesn't love about taxes? Paying them. Reveles failed to pay Florida taxes, New York taxes, income taxes, property taxes, even HOA fees. And while courts were ordering her to pay up, Reveles kept buying more. Luxury handbags, luxury vacations. Maria Reveles. She dodged her taxes, and she'll raise yours.
You can walk into any store in Florida and buy a beer, but you'll be locked up for buying marijuana. It's actually safer than alcohol, but the government treats it totally different. It doesn't make sense. Amendment 3 will legalize marijuana for adults. Safe, lab-tested, and from a store, not the street. It's time to give responsible adults the freedom to make their own choices. Vote yes on Amendment 3.
Get the facts at yeson3.com. Vote yes on Amendment 3.
2022. Michigan voters approve a sweeping abortion amendment. Now, the lawyers who wrote that amendment use it to sue their state, to force taxpayers to fund abortions. The same lawyers wrote Amendment 4, and if it passes, the same thing will happen in Florida. Lawsuits to force taxpayers to fund abortions. It happened in Michigan, it will happen in Florida. Prevent taxpayer-funded abortions. Vote no on Amendment 4.
All right, it is 11:17. We continue to track the path of what will be a massive hurricane to impact Central Florida, but the Gulf Coast of Florida, namely the Tampa, Sarasota, Pinellas County area, very concerned about the current track, which at 11 o'clock, Martha, did not change much in terms of its trajectory. Good evening, I'm Greg Warman.
And good evening, I'm Martha Sigalski. Hurricane Milton expected to create devastating storm surge on Florida's west coast.
Yeah, and during an interview today on CNN, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor isn't kidding around when it comes to people avoiding or ignoring evacuation orders.
Well, I can tell you right now that they may have done that in others. There's never been one like this. And this, Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Pretty powerful right there. The storm surge predictions in the Tampa area are between 8 to 12 feet. She also said, and I'm quoting her, if you want to take on Mother Nature, she wins 100% of the time.
And they did have that wake-up call with Helene. We've seen those images. That was a 500-mile path of destruction. The Tampa area saw part of it. Other parts are still dealing with it as well in the South and North Carolina areas of our country. This one is coming in perpendicularly, and angles matter. Instead of coming along our coastline and then coming in, this one's making a direct impact to likely the Tampa area.
All right, we're going to bring it home right now and see what's happening in Osceola County with Channel 9's Daryl Matthews. And Daryl, you've been at a local Publix, people wanting their water and TP.
Yeah, along with the regular customers, the employees at the same time need those items as well. But this is the emptiest that we have seen this parking lot since we've been out here. This is the opportunity right now. As you can see, the workers cleaning the area because it was so jam-packed all day. And like you said, people have been coming in and out of the market, including employees with bottles of water as well as toilet paper. But take a look at this video we shot earlier when the parking lot was jam-packed with cars and customers. There's definitely a sense of urgency for a lot of people at that time. And inside, shoppers bombarding the aisles, grabbing last-minute essential items like the bottled waters, canned goods, and bread. Many are stocking up for potential power outages and supply shortages. Now, with that being said, keep in mind when putting the food away at home, food that would expire first should probably be kept at the front of the fridge or freezer to grab first in case the power does go out. But back inside the store, is a different mentality. People are grabbing what they need to get home. But for some, the demand is outpacing supply, and many aren't able to find what they need, like non-perishable items of food. But take a listen to a shopper that we caught up with. This will be his first hurricane here in Florida.
You know, to be honest, I don't know what to expect. It's the first year I'm gonna go through this. Coming from somewhere that is just snowstorms, you know. So getting a hurricane made me a little fear.
Now, this specific Publix will be open tomorrow at 6 o'clock for people to come and get those last-minute items for their home. Another thing that I have been seeing a lot of people doing was bringing those 5-gallon jug of waters and refilling them back up here, as well as using the ATM. A lot of people said that they'd rather have cash at this moment in case the power goes out and they're not able to use it, such as the gas station or some stores. That way the cash is on hand. But again, this store will be open at 6 o'clock, or excuse me, it will close at 6 o'clock for people that need to get those last-minute items. Greg, Martha?
All right, great information right there. And by the way, as you put things in the refrigerator, you also want to freeze a small cup of water. Then once it's frozen, put a penny on top of that, put that in the refrigerator. And then as that begins to thaw, you'll know if your food has begun to thaw as well when the penny starts to drop below the surface.
That's a good tip. I love that one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, preparation for Hurricane Milton is in full swing across the state.
Yeah, from putting pennies in frozen cups of water to filling up on gas to shopping at your local grocery store. Many are getting what they need. And let's take a look. Here's what it looked like on the store shelves. This was in Tampa. A lot of them were empty. Many of the stores on Florida's West Coast running low or running out of products, and it's not surprising. And I think that sound bite from the mayor of Tampa, Jane Castor, needs to have some perspective from Tom Terry. So we're going to bring him in, and she reminds people that the Tampa area is 126 miles of coastline. So that's a big target for this storm. And the last storm, Helene, just had a 6-foot storm surge. This one is forecast to have much higher than that.
Yeah, this would likely be the highest that they've seen in parts of the Gulf Coast in 100+ years. And this is going to, of course, when we have a lot of people there. That's why there's so much evacuation. And really, it's going to be an issue of exactly where that center crosses the coast. Is it going to hit south of the bay, or is it going to be north of the bay? But for us, the impacts are going to be still widespread. It's a Cat 5 now, winds 165. It was 180 earlier. Cat 3 at landfall. Landfall Thursday around midnight. So Wednesday night, Thursday morning, hurricane conditions expected for all of us. And we're going to keep an eye on this. This is growing in size. The wind speeds may have gone down a bit, but that means the center of the core is actually getting wider. And the bigger the eye gets, the more energy it takes to spin it faster and faster. So you may see these wind speeds slowly go down, but the destructive wind field is actually expanding. So it's not, there's no such thing as a free lunch in Mother Nature. So we're continuing to monitor this Cat 5, 4, 3, and that's going to be Wednesday evening and approaching the coast somewhere over here. This is a margin of error. As we get closer, our normal forecasting ability gets better and better and better. We're going to be fine-tuning that, but it's going to be a very large wind field moving across during the early morning hours of Thursday, then offshore. So the worst weather will be Thursday. but impacts will start as early as Wednesday morning. So here's the European model, which is, again, one of our better go-to models all the time. And you can see it's in lockstep with the Hurricane Center track, which I've left on the screen here. By Tuesday night, we still have a few showers, a little bit breezy, but overall still decent weather for your recovery. And this is part of the problem we're going to run into. We're going to get this steady onshore flow here, and the rain will be light to start, but then get heavier and heavier. And we're going to start getting these outer rain bands approaching the Gulf Coast by Wednesday morning. So by Wednesday daybreak, probably by the lunch hour at the latest, we need you to get hunkered down because we're going to get these fast moving outer rain bands. We'll be doing continuous coverage here, obviously, all week long probably. You can see the center of the storm approaching the northern side of it. This is where the really tough weather is going to be, approaching Tampa, Sarasota, Fort Myers, all through here, Ellington, and coming in. Now, there's going to be a little bit of dry air trying to help out our flood situation on the southern periphery here. We saw this with Hurricane Ian 2 years ago if you were here. We had very heavy rain north of the track, not as much rain south of the track. But this is a much larger hurricane, and it's not coming up all the way through Florida and eventually hitting us, okay? This is coming in, and it's going to be within a few hours in our western coverage area. So that's going to be a very long day on Thursday. We're going to have widespread power outages starting Wednesday, because that's when some of the winds and rain will start coming through. We'll start seeing trickles of power outages, then more and more and more. And then by Thursday afternoon, this is another part of the story. With the storm spinning here, we get an offshore wind, so we will have a little bit of issue along the west-facing coastline, the Indian Banana Rivers, and then it's going to come wheeling back in here with full fury across our northern beaches, so that we could have 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. And at 2 o'clock Thursday, roughly, is the high tide. So that is not going to be helping us either. So I'm just trying to give you the facts as I have them here. This is Milton's wind field, and I want you to notice how the yellow area expands as it approaches. So that's tropical storm force winds by Wednesday. This is based on the hurricane track and speed. There is the essentially 60+ mile-an-hour winds. That's the hurricane force winds. And this circle is going to get smaller only because it only goes out so far, so the circle just kind of shrinks, okay? It's going to stay pretty large as it approaches the coast here from Tampa to Sarasota. Huge impacts through here. We'll have what's called an extreme wind warning with winds over 115 miles an hour expected through here. So just incredible. And this is going to be Wednesday night. So again, this is when you need to be hunkered down. This will not be, my icon will not change from a 3 until it hits offshore and becomes a 1. This will not be a 3. This will probably be a Cat 2 becoming a Cat 1, Cat 1, Cat 1. Okay, so this is 8 o'clock in the morning over near the Space Coast. And we've had a very long, harrowing day, but that's why we have time to prepare. It's not a rapid onset event. We've been watching this now all week long, and then eventually kicking offshore. So hurricane warnings are out for a reason. Please heed your local officials on whether or not you need to evacuate. If you have a mobile home, an RV, try to think of who you know, friends, shelters, etc. We have lots of information on our website, WFTV.com, and we're going to get more information as we get closer to where those shelters are in your county. And as far as rainfall, it's going to be, I think, catastrophic in a few spots here. We're going to have lots of rainfall issues. Flooding is going to be a big problem. By Friday, we're going to blow all this out. In fact, Thursday, late day, we'll have most of the rain out, and we'll have a significant cleanup to undergo, but we're going to have some very nice fall-like weather, the calm after the storm, guys.
Yeah, that is great that we have that cooler weather afterwards, because as you said, it's likely that we'll have lots of power outages. So if we can open the windows and breathe a little bit, that beats the heck out of some of those storms that have happened in the summertime.
We will be seeing impacts along our coast, and county leaders are in full prep mode.
Yeah, let's head to Brevard County right now. And Channel 9's Melanie Hulk gives us an update on where things stand in her county of Brevard.
Brevard County officials are really urging residents to prepare now. They're expecting some significant impacts from Hurricane Milton, and that includes several inches of rain, maybe up to 10 inches in some areas between this past Sunday and this coming Thursday. Rough surf, of course, and possible beach erosion. We saw some beach erosion during Hurricane Helene, but depending on how this particular hurricane comes along over Brevard County, we could see more significant impacts there too. I can tell you the county has several sandbag locations that will be open tomorrow. A number of municipalities also have sandbag operations, including the city of Cocoa, which really just has a sand pile out there. It's bring your own bag, but we saw quite a few people out there today just preparing as best they could. Obviously, a number of folks getting gasoline for those generators, their cars, of course, and just folks doing what they can at this point to prepare. There are also a number of closures that are already happening here in Brevard County. Brevard Public Schools has an early day scheduled for Tuesday, early dismissal. The kids will be going home early so families can prepare for this storm, but there will be no school on Wednesday and Thursday. Operations are kind of being drawn back at Port Canaveral as well. They tell me that they had regular operations today. We saw cruise ships leaving earlier today. All those home ported ships are gone now. They normally return on Friday. We'll see what happens with this storm, of course. And by Wednesday about midnight, they're expecting that the port will be closed to traffic altogether. We got an email from Melbourne Orlando International Airport. They're planning to close that airport at 2 p.m. on Wednesday and hope to reopen Friday morning. And Florida Tech is canceling classes Tuesday through Friday. So really something that we all need to keep up on, because that may change as we know more about the path of the storm. I mean, we already know that all of Central Florida can expect some sort of impacts there, but there are likely to be more closures and cancellations ahead. Reporting from Brevard County, Melanie Holtz, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Mel, thank you. It's just about time for Jimmy Kimmel here on Channel 9, but we're going to continue this coverage, so Jimmy Kimmel will air in its entirety, as we can have that option. Since we also own the TV station TV 27, we're going to put it there for you. We're going to continue, meantime, with Hurricane Milton.
We will be back right after this.
During COVID, working families struggled to get by, while Marcia Summersill cashed in. Summersill took thousands of taxpayer dollars, meant for working families, to bail out a company with just one employee, herself. Marcia Summersill takes from working families, but Doug Bankson fights for them. Bankson cut taxes over $1 billion, and he's taking on the insiders to lower rates. Doug Bankson, working families first.
Like many voters, Lena's open to Amendment 3. But there's a catch. A deal breaker she won't see on the ballot summary because they buried it deep to sneak it past voters like Lena. Big Weed wrote Amendment 3, so they can't be sued.
So they can't even be sued?
No matter what goes wrong, if people get sick, corporations make billions but can't be held accountable.
There's no way I'm voting for Amendment 3.
It's corporate greed, not freedom.
I'm Sheriff Morris Young. Illicit marijuana laced with illegal drugs like fentanyl have destroyed lives. I know because I've seen it firsthand. Amendment 3 will save lives by making marijuana safe, regulated, and lab tested. Amendment 3 will protect our community from dangerous illegal drugs while allowing law enforcement to focus on serious crimes. Vote yes on Amendment 3, the smarter and safer choice for Florida.
Insurance rates are soaring, families are struggling, and both parties are to blame. I'm Erica Booth. As a teacher, I solve problems every day. Let's solve this one. We need to create an insurance fraud task force to target abuse, give homeowners more affordable options, and sideline the lobbyists. Tom Keene, he joined the lobbyists and voted against reform. The problem is clear. The solution is to
Erica Booth for Florida House.
When I grow up, I'm gonna be an astronaut. I'm gonna be president. I'm gonna be a professional protester.
Oh, Nate.
Nate Douglas dreamed it, then did it. Douglas spends his days marching with left-wing radicals, defund the police, cashless bail for criminals, violent inmates on our streets.
And I'll get paid for it.
That's not a real job, Mr. Douglas.
Professional protester Nate Douglas. Don't let his real job be to represent you.
When Monique Worrell refused to prosecute dangerous criminals, people died.
Known gang member went on a shooting rampage.
19-year-old Keith Moses was arrested and faces first-degree murder charges.
Moses is accused of killing a 9-year-old girl, a news reporter, and another woman.
Here are the facts. This career criminal was arrested. He should have been prosecuted. Monique Worrell let him loose, and 3 people died. Monique Worrell didn't do her job the first time. Don't let her get it back.
It is now 11:34. Again, Jimmy Kimmel has been switched over to TV 27. We continue our coverage of Hurricane Milton as we anticipate what would be historic impacts to Florida and to Central Florida in terms of the magnitude and what it does in terms of the destruction. Good evening. I'm Greg Warmoth.
And good evening. I'm Martha Sigalski. Let's send things on over to Certified Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry and meteorologist David Heckard. Guys.
All right. Thanks a lot. We're getting closer to having one full day here on Tuesday for the rest of your preps and getting where you need to go, because I think Wednesday we're going to start getting some of the outer rain bands coming through, and just bears repeating that full hurricane preps continue tomorrow, but rain and wind will be increasing, and that's when I put power right there. I just finished this graphic because
we think we'll begin to see power outages possibly as early as Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, especially in areas west and southwest of Orlando.
Yeah, so if you are special needs, if you require oxygen, things like that, you need to be getting to a shelter or finding someone who can help you with that power issue that you may run into, because I think a lot of us are going to have the same problem. The worst impacts will be during the day on Thursday. And again, we've just watched this incredible weather story unfold. One of the top 5 lowest pressures we've ever recorded here in our basin of the world, and it's still moving due east. Pressure's risen a little bit, but now it has 2 eye walls.
Yeah, so we just got an update from the hurricane hunters. We now have 2 closed eye walls. We have an inner eye wall, which about 4 miles or so. They're still, I think, measuring the outer eye wall right now. And this is the beginning of what we call an eye wall replacement cycle. So the system, which the winds have gone down about 20 or 15 miles an hour down to 165. So it's going to kind of plateau. This takes about 6 hours for the whole process to get going. So we will be dealing, we think, with a system that kind of levels off. But you can see the NHC forecast, Tom, still a Category 5 through Tuesday morning.
And even if this were to drop below a 5 to a 4, folks, this is still a massive storm. We think this is still going to be a Category 3, and the timing is something we're fine-tuning. The Hurricane Center, we take a look at our models, take a look at how far it's traveling, what the speed is, things like that. But this is Wednesday evening off the coast of Sarasota, Cat 3, and approaching the bay or near Tampa Bay by around midnight, give or take, Wednesday night.
Yeah, so the models we kind of look at behind the scenes are beginning to kind of converge a little bit on timing, and that's to be expected. We're getting a little bit closer now, but it looks like the worst of the weather here in Central Florida is probably going to be Wednesday evening, Wednesday night through Thursday, especially in some of our East Coast communities.
Yeah, it's going to take a big wallop here, and we've been working on these graphics behind the scenes. We get tracks from the Hurricane Center, then we start kind of disseminating all these different forecasts. And generally our northern areas, all this orange is going to indicate winds well over 65 miles an hour, probably hurricane wind gusts, 75, 85. The worst winds will be along the Gulf Coast. And David, this is going to continue all the way across and including our northeast coast into Thursday.
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of almost a 2-part event if you live in coastal Volusia, coastal Flagler County. But I really want to stress here, this area in red, we are talking about extensive power outages, including the Tampa Bay and Sarasota metropolitan areas. It's going to be days for some people to get their power back on in even very populated neighborhoods.
Let me show you one of our forecast models, the European, which has performed very well. It usually does. It's one of the better global models year in and year out. And I've superimposed a track on here, and they're kind of very similar here as far as the timing and impacts. And
it's 3 o'clock.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon Wednesday. That's why you can see the rain and squalls that are already starting to roll through. And we're going to have a higher tornado threat on Wednesday as well.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we dealt with Helene. We had some squalls. They packed a punch. This system, you're going to know when the squalls come through. They're going to have very strong winds, probably gusts at times over 60, and there's also going to be a tornado threat with some of these squalls as well.
So that's Wednesday. So we need you hunkered down on Wednesday, especially after the lunch hour. We don't need you out around Wednesday night because we'll be dealing with these rain bands live on the air. And this is a great reminder. If you have a smart TV, download WFTV now, and that is our smart TV app. You can also, of course, get the old antenna out and catch us on our antennas and on our free WFTV weather app and our news app and on our great radio partner 580 WDBO, and that's 107.3 FM.
Yes.
So lots of ways to keep in touch. So as the storm makes landfall, here's 6 o'clock in the morning. This is going to be a powerful hurricane. Again, we need you powered, hunkered down, because power is going to be going out, and get your flashlights ready to go. There you see the storm crossing over Central Florida and right near the I-4 corridor. And David, hopefully a little bit less rain to the south.
Yeah, we do think a little bit of dry air is going to get kind of stuck into this system here. So normally when we talk about the southern area or eastern area, that's what we call the dirty side of the storm. It's going to be a little bit different. We think that dry air is going to get kind of stuck here on the southern side. So lower rainfall amounts down towards the south, and then a band here just north of the core. We could be talking about some very significant rainfall.
All right, so let me take you county by county. David's been working behind the scenes trying to fine tune this with us. So our friends in Polk County right now, the worst weather starts during the day Wednesday. That's also when likely power outages will start as well.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about, I think, extensive power outages, maybe a gradient in the power outages due to the wind gusts. We're going to have some wind gusts over 90 miles an hour, maybe 95, especially out towards Lakeland. Get right along the Hillsborough County line down towards Fort Meade and Bartow. Davenport also going to be dealing with some strong winds.
That's right. We have a lot of viewers in the Davenport area. Hello to you guys down there. We're going to keep you hunkered down together with us. So the Villages, Lady Lake, Leesburg, Claremont, all the way up in toward Eustis, Mount Dora, edge of Apopka, worst weather moving in during Wednesday, and again overnight early Thursday.
Yeah, a lot of people live in the Villages. We know it's a rapidly growing area. This is going to be a very significant hit for the Villages, with wind gusts potentially over 90 and 6 to 9 inches of rain.
So rainfall again we talk a lot about wind because that's kind of what's knocking our power and our trees down, but we're going to have a lot of water associated with this, but perhaps a little bit less so, especially across, say, Holopah South. I still think Kissimmee St. Cloud could still be on the edge of some of that heavier rain.
Yeah, I think we'll see a big gradient in the rainfall down towards the south near Yeehaw Junction, maybe 4-6 inches of rain. Kissimmee St. Cloud, Celebration, probably in that upper bound, maybe 7-8 inches.
Yeah, and again, we're kind of fine-tuning the models as we get closer. Fortunately, we still have about 36 hours before we really get into the middle of this, but we're going to be getting more and more data, and we'll keep these updated. So all throughout Orange County, Thursday morning, but we will start getting the outer rain bands on Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon night. That's when the power will start to go out.
Yep, wind gusts here in Orange County around 80 miles an hour. So kind of begin to wrap your mind around the fact this is not going to be Helene. It's not going to be Debbie. This is going to be a significant step up from what we dealt with those two systems. It's going to be very impactful here in the city and in the suburbs.
Yeah, if you've been here for a while, this may be a part of several storms, maybe part Irma with some of the wind that we had with that. That was the last, I think, widespread wind damage we had, really, and that was back in 2017. And then, of course, some of the heavy rain from Ian. We're hoping 6 to 9 inches will be all we get. And again, as Dave was talking about, there's going to be a gradient or a change, a rapid change from very heavy rain in this neighborhood and much lower rainfall amounts there based on the structure of the storm itself. Up to Seminole County.
Same deal. We're going to be dealing with wind gusts again above 80 miles an hour. There's going to be significant impact for Seminole County. Rainfall may be a little bit higher here, depending again on that exact track. Could be talking about some areas getting over a foot of rain. Even here in Florida, we get into the double digits, Tom. That's when we start having some bigger problems.
Yeah, and we had flash flood emergencies. The first time I'd ever seen that in Central Florida, that was with Ian 2 years ago. So Wednesday into Thursday, the worst weather. And you've got Brevard County here, surge of 2 to 4 feet. We can't forget about our surge along the East Coast.
We have storm surge watches in effect. Those will probably be converted to warnings tomorrow. 2 to 4 feet of surge. I know that doesn't seem like a big number, but that wipes out the beach. That's going to flood some parking lots, some of the streets that kind of run right along the beach. Those may go under as well. Wind gusts over 85. And again, just similar to Osceola County, a bit of a gradient in the rainfall, 6 to 9 inches. Some areas south of Melbourne down towards Sebastian Inlet, maybe only 4 to 5 inches.
Yeah, maybe not a whole lot down south, but more to the north. And our final trip up here toward the north for Flagler and for Volusia County, this is where I think we're again going to get hammered at the beach. And this is why they have evacuation orders, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge with this and a whole lot of rain. David, this is where we could see, I think, some of the higher rainfall totals.
Yep, 8 to 14 inches of rainfall. And this will be the last stop for Milton, we think. It may really roar here. Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, all the way up through Flagler Beach, heading into the daytime hours. Could have some wind gusts, onshore winds, maybe over 80 to 85 miles per hour.
All right, so we're going to keep all this updated. We have all of our meteorologists working all around the clock here to keep you posted. Got a long way to go. We'll get you through this, guys.
Yeah, and here's the thing about the power outages those fellows were talking about happens on Wednesday. Now, don't forget that the crews, the linemen and women, aren't going out until it's safe. And so if the major part of the storm storm isn't gone out of here until Thursday late, then it'll be a while before they even get to, and then they prioritize, and then they have to safety check. So if you lose power, we've seen it before, 11, 12, 2 weeks at a time.
Roads got to be clear, and those winds have to be died down before they will even attempt to do anything.
Yeah, when I said 11, 12, I mean 11 and 12 days. We've seen that has happened recently with storms.
Power trucks are making their way across Central Florida in preparation for Hurricane Milton.
And Alex Walker joins us in studio with more on that. Alex.
I was able to catch up with David Turk. He is the Deputy Secretary at the Department of Energy. He said it's all hands on deck from the federal government as they prepare for Hurricane Milton. He said they plan to exercise their muscle and have utility workers ready to go for when Milton makes landfall. Here's video we captured, power trucks rolling out across Central Florida. Utility companies in the region are pre-staging personnel, materials, and equipment to get ready for this storm. David Turk told me over 50,000 personnel from 41 states and Canada responded to power outages during Hurricane Helene. They're planning a massive response from Milton as well. He gave this message to the people of Central Florida as this storm approaches.
The main message for folks waiting for the second storm to hit is we're working on it, we're prepared, we're doing everything we can and taking all the lessons of the past so that we can be as helpful as we possibly can going forward. And I think what all of us need to do as Americans, as we do in the best spirit of these kinds of things, is let's all roll up our sleeves and help not only our immediate families, our immediate communities, but think about others who are even less fortunate than we are, even if our lives are upended.
Powerful message there. Turk said this will be a collective response, meaning utilities helping other utilities. They are recruiting as many people as possible to Florida to get power back as quickly as possible after Milton moves through. Remember, a lot of these linemen are coming from other states that were working for Hurricane Helene in the Carolinas and Georgia. And now once they're done there, they're coming down to Florida to help for Milton. Back to you.
And what's neat is I saw Tropicana Field, which is where, the Rays play, and they've set up all the cots there. That's not a refuge for the people that have been evacuated. That's for the men and women who are here to help us as we recover from the storm.
And we have, Greg, seen all of the cars on the road today leaving the Bay Area. Millions of people are evacuating.
And that includes hundreds of hospital patients.
Hospitals, ALFs, and nursing homes have certainly heeded the warnings that have been put out. And we are in the middle of there's 500 to 600 ambulances that are in active evacuation right now of medical facilities in the greater Tampa Bay region. We have requested even more rescue and ambulance units from FEMA. They have them staged in the southeast United States, probably in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
So frightening. We've seen it before, even with flooding here during a storm. People that are maybe have dementia or these sorts of things, and then they are taken out of the norm, and it's difficult. So again, as we go through hardships, remember it's always harder for somebody else. That kind of puts things in perspective. And we witnessed it here. We witnessed today 6,600 people right there in Pinellas County that were either in the hospital or some sort of a special needs facility have been transferred out of there into surroundings that aren't familiar to them tonight.
All right, it is 11:47 on this Monday, soon to be Tuesday. Thanks for staying with us. We'll be back continuing to track Milton right after this.
Eyewitness News this morning, live tomorrow starting at 4:30 a.m.
98.9 WMMO rocks.
We will rock you. Sing it! We will rock you.
Red flags. We see them on bad plays, bad deals, and bad politicians. The red flags on Sarah Henry. Henry repeatedly attacks people of faith, called the cross a symbol of discrimination, called Christians white nationalists, even opposed optional prayer at school football games. Sarah Henry, too hateful, too radical, too many red flags. But David Smith will solve problems, not start them. Veteran, leader, trusted. David Smith.
It's the hardest conversation I have with patients, telling them that their baby won't make it. And now, because of Florida's extreme abortion ban, I also have to tell them I can't help. The ban forces women to wait until the brink of death to get care and could send doctors like me to prison just for treating my patients. That's terrifying. And it's why I'm voting yes on 4, to end the ban so government can't stop women from getting life-saving care.
Property insurance through the roof. Groceries out of control. Taxes just keep going up. And after 14 years, Rick Scott's only made it worse. He wrote the plan to cut Social Security, ban abortion, and raise your taxes. Look, Rick Scott doesn't care about you, but I do. I'm Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. My first job was minimum wage, so I know what you're facing because I've lived it. That's why I approve this message.
If you've been injured in a car accident, call Pound Law from your cell phone. Morgan & Morgan.
You can walk into any store in Florida and buy a beer, but you'll be locked up for buying marijuana. It's actually safer than alcohol, but the government treats it totally different. It doesn't make sense. Amendment 3 will legalize marijuana for adults. Safe, lab-tested, and from a store, not the street. It's time to give responsible adults the freedom to make their own choices. Vote yes on Amendment 3.
Get the facts at yeson3.com. Vote yes on Amendment 3.
Most people agree there comes a time in every pregnancy when it's just too late for an abortion. Good people can disagree about when to draw that line. But Amendment 4 erases it. The word viability never defined. The word doctor never used. Amendment 4 even eliminates parental consent for minors. That's not an accident. That's their plan. Abortions at any time, for almost any reason. No doctors, no limits. Vote no on Amendment 4.
This update from Severe Weather Center 9 is sponsored by Toyota of Orlando and Toyota of Claremont.
Tomorrow, as you wake up, a chance to do those final preparations. Tomorrow will be the final day before all of us need to have everything done and sit back and then be ready for the impact of Hurricane Milton. Good evening. I'm Greg Warmouth.
And good evening to you. I am Martha Sagowski. We're expecting widespread power outages and downed trees from Milton across Central Florida.
And Channel 9's Nick Pampantonis joins us again. He is still in the Apopka area, and one of the big issues will be finding drinkable water and ice.
And that's where a place like this can come in. Who needs the grocery store shelves that are empty at this point anyway, or at least being restocked, when you have this 24 hours ice stand? You see them all over the place in Central Florida. They're fairly common here. And one of the things that this offers you is the chance to get a bag of ice or water at any point, and without really worrying about running out. It pumps out 40 pounds of ice per 8 minutes. It's hooked up to water here, and for $1.50 at that. So a decent price here, and something that you're not going to have to stress over as you try and make those final preparations. All day Monday, people in the Apopka area stopping by the ice stand at Rock Springs Road and Kelly Park Road, filling up their bags and coolers with ice and jugs with water. The stand, one of the last places to sell ice and water in the city after shoppers picked grocery store shelves clean ahead of Milton. Owner Becky Oldfield said they've had 2 or 3 times their normal customer load as word spread.
Not that this is something to celebrate, but I appreciate that we can be open for the customers and people that are running out of things that they are going to essentially need.
Next door, her father-in-law is preparing for the end of an era. The Rock Springs Bar and Grill, known for its burgers and no-frills atmosphere, is planning to close for the first time since Rip Oldfield bought the place in 1986, riding out one hurricane after another with a skeleton crew and 6 generators.
There's not too many businesses in the Tri-County area that's been open this long every day continuously. And we're going to do our best to keep her open. It just depends on the track of the storm.
Oldfield said they've moved a weekly dinner special to lunch so they don't run out of time on Wednesday. Next door at the ice stand, running out isn't something on Becky's horizon.
40 pounds every 8 minutes. So no, I don't see us running out, and we're open 24 hours.
So, Greg, you talk about those last-minute preparations. This is the 3rd business on this property. It's a tube rental place for the state park nearby here. And the question about what's going to happen to these tubes is still up in the air. Hopefully the tubes won't be by Thursday. But The tubes here, they are stacked. That we did ask if they plan on tying them down. That is something that is going to have to be taken care of tomorrow if they decide, in fact, to do that here, or if they decide to just let nature take its course and see what happens here. Again, the bar, for the moment, is going to be open tomorrow. It's going to be open Wednesday early. The ice stand open 24 hours, and this is important. It's on a generator as well, or it can be. And so that if the power outages are long and widespread here in the Apopka region, that is a place, just mark this down, is somewhere that you will be able to find fresh water if need be, as well as ice if need be, if the worst does happen here in the northern Apopka area. For now, live in Apopka, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
I know we have a lot of people that are new to the area. One thing that if you do have storm damage, then you are required by your insurance to at least try to fix that or, do something so there's not further damage from any other rain. The good news, as Tom joins us, is once the storm passes, people should have time to, put some wood or some tarps on top of the house.
It's going to be the best stretch of weather we've had in 6 months once this big monster storm comes through the state of Florida. Right now, winds are 165. Moving east, it's a Cat 5. This is going to weaken slightly before a big Cat 3 landfall. That went by too fast. Cat 3 is going to be off the coast here of, say, Pinellas County and Manatee County during the evening on Wednesday. It's still going to be close whether it goes directly into Tampa Bay or perhaps just south of Tampa Bay. But for us, the impacts remain the same. The impacts start Wednesday morning. And then Thursday will be the worst weather for a lot of us. So I've updated early warning future track, and I've kind of adjusted it a little bit to kind of match up a little bit more with the timing of the Hurricane Center, so we can kind of get an idea of kind of what their timing is. And our forecast model is a little faster, but I've kind of backed it up for you. But this is Wednesday morning, and we get a strong onshore wind, some scattered outer rain feeder bands coming through. And this is when, again, we're going to start getting more of the winds coming through. Unfortunately, we'll also likely start getting the first power outages from this storm with some of the heavy rain bands and some of the gustiness coming through. This is 6:30 Wednesday night. We've already had these outer feeder bands come through. We will have a tornado threat. That's why we're going to be watching this minute by minute all the way until it clears. You can see a really nasty heavy feeder band right here. There is our Cat 4 hurricane, which will weaken to a Cat 3. And again, it's expected to be making landfall in the vicinity of Wednesday night, midnight into early Thursday. We'll be fine-tuning this, of course, but you can also see a little bit of an erosion of the southern eye. We're likely going to get some dry air coming through, which will help to mitigate some of the flood threat down here, at least after we've already had heavy rain. It won't be insult on top of injury, but to the north, I don't think any such thing. I think we're going to get very heavy rain bands coming through, very strong wind shear coming through, and that's going to keep a lot of strong surge along the coast as well. 7:30 and Thursday morning, a big hurricane. This will likely be a Cat 1, not a 3, but very heavy rain. And again, Wednesday, Thursday, probably 36 hours of pretty significant impacts. And beyond this, we have beautiful weather, 60s and low 80s. But we got to get through this storm first.
Yeah, man. And part of the problem with this storm is that the water temperatures are so warm because we've had more than 140 days in the 90s, and that's just the fuel. We'll be right back as we continue our coverage after we jump into Tuesday, the final full day of preparation. Almost midnight.
Yeah, we'll be back right after this.
I'm Sheriff Morris Young. Illicit marijuana laced with illegal drugs like fentanyl have destroyed lives. I know, because I've seen it firsthand. Amendment 3 will save lives by making marijuana safe, regulated, and lab tested. Amendment 3 will protect our community from dangerous illegal drugs while allowing law enforcement to focus on serious crimes. Vote yes on Amendment 3, the smarter and safer choice for Florida.
Some things on your ballot are complicated, and some are simple, like Amendment 2, the right to fish and hunt. Amendment 2 is a common sense, bipartisan measure supported by conservationists, environmentalists, and sportsmen as a humane way to manage Florida's wildlife, protect its natural resources, and promote environmental stewardship. So whether you want to protect our environment or our traditions, Amendment 2 is for you.
Heart disease, diabetes, cancer. Kelly Deanna Miller's company claimed it could cure them with a fruit smoothie. In truth, Miller's company's been called a pyramid scheme that preys on desperate people. It's shady, it's creepy, and that's why it faced a class action lawsuit. Miller has twice been sued for defrauding creditors and even lied under oath about her personal assets. You wouldn't buy Kelly Deanna Miller's snake oil. Don't vote for it.
Maria Reveles loves taxes. Taxes on income, taxes on marriage, even taxes on death. The only thing Reveles doesn't love about taxes? Paying them. Reveles failed to pay Florida taxes, New York taxes, income taxes, property taxes, even HOA fees. And while courts were ordering her to pay up, Reveles kept buying more. Luxury handbags, luxury vacations. Maria Reveles. She dodged her taxes, and she'll raise yours.
During COVID, working families struggled to get by, while Marcia Summersill cashed in. Summersill took thousands of taxpayer dollars, meant for working families, to bail out a company with just one employee, herself. Marcia Summersill takes from working families, but Doug Bankson fights for them. Bankson cut taxes over $1 billion, and he's taking on the insiders to lower rates. Doug Bankson, working families first.
I'm Sheriff Morris Young. Illicit marijuana laced with illegal drugs like fentanyl have destroyed lives. I know because I've seen it firsthand. Amendment 3 will save lives by making marijuana